All right, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hello, welcome everybody. As we wait for everybody to come on in, come on in, come on in. We're going to continue this conversation we were having from yesterday. Uh, I'm not sure how, I'm not going to try to be exclusive per se, but I don't know how inclusive we'll be allowed to be. Yesterday, it kind of became a thing where it was more about arguing than actually getting the point across. So had to kind of cut off the freedom that we allowed people to have yesterday. But we hope to be able to get a little deeper into this on this part two for today. But thank you everybody for being on once again. This is Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thanks for being on with us, whether you're on TikTok, YouTube, with us right now live. We are thankful to the Most High for you. We're thankful to the Most High, period. Let alone thankful to the Most High for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful for everything she does for the diaspora. And if you'd like to support her business is making sure that the health of the diaspora is her business. And the tincture of the month, also, she has many different tinctures or natural medicines. The tincture of the month, if you'd like to be able to partake in that particular product, is I Am Rested. All right. So please feel free to do that. And we're thankful and we're grateful for everybody for being on once again. And thanks for spending some time with us. And we're going to get into science versus religion part two today. So thanks for being on. And really, as we tried to show yesterday that it's not really so much we're doing science versus religion, right? That's kind of where people get lost. They get lost in the title, right? They get lost in the title a little bit, and so they hear the title and they go, "Oh, here comes somebody who doesn't believe in science," or "Here comes somebody who says religion has nothing to do with anything," or whatever. And I think that they miss the point that we're trying to ultimately make, which is that if we're going to speak on science and religion, we have to first and foremost realize that they both come from the same source. That's what we were trying to get across yesterday. That became a big deal to many. It became frustrating for many. They felt they couldn't listen at all yesterday. But the reality is, like, we have to realize first and foremost that we're talking about science versus religion. We're speaking on something specific as far as what's going on. And how you guys doing? I'm sorry. Hello to you guys. Sister Denise, how you doing? Brother Steven, was it Walkie Goldsmith? Thanks for being part of the community. Just Banks, Polish. Oh yeah, it's nice art in the hotel room. How you doing, Anthony? Thanks for being on, Sister Sharice. And so as we get into this, we really got to, once again, kind of take hold of the conversation and make sure we steer it in the right direction. So if people are coming on today to just go back into an argument phase, I believe this, I believe that, you're not right, you're this, you're that, you don't know what you're talking about. Religion is trash, science is trash. The goal is to show everybody that they come from the same source, right? How you doing, Minister Sonia? So the goal is not for me to trash one or uplift the other. The goal is to tell you that you can't have one without the other, right? And this is kind of turning itself into a series because you have all these different people who are arguing, and the reality is that we don't need to argue. They both come from the same source. If something is scientific, then it's true, right? By the way, if something's religious, remember we talked about that yesterday. If something is religious or somebody's religion, it literally means religion. What a legion of people do repetitively. How you doing, Jesse? How you doing, Jolene? Right. So we're not talking about, when we talk about religion, people think we're talking about what you call, or what church you go to, or what Bible you study from, or if you're a Muslim, or if you're Sunni, if you're Shiite, what sect. Not sex, but sect, right? How you doing, Breezy? Thanks for being on. How you doing, Jacob? Right. So we're not here to tell you that one is more important than the other. Matter of fact, if you comprehend what they are, and you comprehend that culture has to be talked about as well, right? Then you go into a different conversation. Right now we go into a different conversation, but a lot of people aren't willing to have that conversation, right? So let's deal with this correctly. right? Let's deal with this correctly first. One is not greater than the other, you know, right? One is not greater than the other. One is what? One is not greater than the other. One is not here to push the other away. Matter of fact, both of them support one another more than we think. You said you believe in God. Well, I don't worship God. You know, God is somebody's specific culture, right? But I get what you mean, right? You worship a higher power, is what you're saying. And so therefore, you know, but once again, when you say I believe in God or a higher power, but you don't believe in any Bible, well, okay, that's your context, right? But you're here part of a culture today that has something that you would call the Bible, but really it goes past the Bible, right? And that's a problem. Many people who say they don't believe in any Bible, I mean, well, fine, and that's fine. Which Bible are you talking about? What version? You talking about an ancient version, right? It's like when you talk about science, which science are you talking about? It's like if you talk about evolution, which evolution are you talking about? It's like if you're talking about a person, which one are you talking about? You talking about a real person, a strong man, right? So we have these arguments once again, and we get, and I'm not saying you per se are doing this. I'm just saying in general, we get emotionally attached because, and it's natural, right? Whatever our culture is dictates our belief, or whatever culture we decide to, you know, live up to dictates our belief. Whatever our belief does that we have, it dictates our emotional response. Okay, so once again, that's fine. If that's what you do, Jesse, that's cool. That's the culture that you uphold. See, in our culture, we look at the etymology for what it is, and religion is what a legion of people repetitively do. So if you drink coffee every day, if you go for a walk every day, if you say you don't believe in the Bible every day, there's a bunch of other people that do those things. So by definition, it's a religious act. If you decided that you're saying, I'm not going to believe in the Bible, that's fine. Like, then cool. You know, like have a great day or stay on and listen. But I don't know, you know, this might be a little irritating to you because you're going to hear me say things that you think are false the whole time, you know. But once again, if you are let's do it like this. You ready? How you doing, Alton? I see what you're saying, Just Banks. Yeah, how you doing, Sister Beverly? Right. So for example, yeah, you believe in God. That's a Germanic deity. God is different than Elohim or Elohim, right? God is different than a deus or a deity. They're not the same. Like sometimes they go across lines, but they're not the same, right? But that's again, once again, you're coming in with a predetermined. You have like a prejudged notion of what's going to be said, right? I'm saying like, listen long enough, you might see that like we probably have some things that are in common, right? We probably have some things that are in common, but you have to do all these different things, right? You have to be willing to do all these different things. You have to be willing to listen, right? You have to be willing to be able to look past even something that, you know, is there or whatever, right? So you don't even know what we're using to talk. You're just saying, I hate anything that has to do with the Bible. Like, okay. So like here's a like watch this. Here's the question. This is why we got to get past the science versus religion or thinking we know going by somebody else's definition of what religion has turned into or whatever. When you talk about religion, when you talk about religion, um, or just let's just do this, right? So for example, when you talk about a person, you said it ain't the same. I believe in science, but your Elohim loves you and is a separate thing from science. Well, no, science and the Bible go together. If it's natural law, see, watch this. What is natural law? We got to go here. Like people, so once again, what are we? Even with the Bible, you're dealing. You should be coming from a context of law and case study. Problem is that we don't want to act like there's any law or that law means anything to us anymore. So we miss a lot of stuff, and we don't know about case studies. So let's bring this to something simple. If you are an American citizen, are you free? Right? Because we don't know what these words mean. I'm trying to get you to see, like, if you're an American citizen, are you free? See, people are saying no. Right? That would be the correct answer, by the way. And how you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Alma. Once again, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Thanks for being on, babe. Love you so much. Right? But yeah, love you so much. Sorry, no buts. Love you so much. So, you know, if you're born an American citizen, are you free? You said freedom is an illusion that the government gives you. Well, yeah, if especially if you're dealing with being public, exactly, right? So, matter of fact, what is the definition of a human? How you doing, Marcia? Right? You said technically you are. Well, not according to the law, right? Watch this. What's the definition of a human according to the law? You said you're more than free in most countries. Okay. Once again, let's look at. Are you in? If you're in the United States of America, especially, but we can talk about this in England, Ireland, other countries, right, that have the same ilk, Canada, etc. What is the definition of a human being? How you doing, Sister Betty? What is the lawful definition of a human? Do you know? Now, the reference for this is Black's Law Dictionary, but it's a dictionary that you're allowed to use in court, right? So, what is the definition of a human? Hello, Eugene. How you doing? Up in the D. Hello, lo and behold. All right. So, watch this. The definition of a human, if you were to look it up in Black's Law Dictionary, it will tell you specifically you have to see monster. That's SEE, monster. In other words, it wants you to look up the definition of monster. So right there, before we even look up the definition of the monster, we should see that they think that you are monstrous if you consider yourself to be a human being because you upset their system. But you claim you're free. You have human rights. Legally, you shouldn't want human rights because in their law, human rights mean that you're monstrous. How you doing, Brother Thomas? Right? How you doing, Keith? You see what I'm saying? So before we get into this thing, like, see, we're battling terms and don't even recognize what these terms are. You've learned things. They throw you these bones. They tell you these things in college and school and all this. You think you have a degree in this and law, and you went to this and you went here, and you're talking psychology and this, that, and the Greek myth and blah, blah. And reality is you're not really living by what you think, right? So then if you look at the definition of monster, the monsters have no rights, which means that a human, you as a human being, even if you want to call yourself a good or God, because it's the same word, God, human or good human, good speed, Godspeed, good and talk, etc. Right? That's what it means. God morning, good morning, morning of the God, right? MOURNING. You just took the U off and don't even realize that they did that to you, right? But when you're doing those things, where'd I get that? Black's Law Dictionary. There's 11 editions. It's a reference point that you can use in court still to this day. And it's not for Black people. The guy's last name is Black. Okay. Black's, BLACK', Law Dictionary. And if you look up the definition, you will discover it'll say sea monster, SEE monster. You have to look up monster to be able to see what you are in court of law considering human beings. Okay, the nations ran under maritime law. You can talk about admiralty law. You can talk about common law. You can talk about law of equity. You can talk about remedial law, procedural law, natural law, universal law, etc. They've twisted this thing is what I'm trying to get you to see, is you're using terminology, believing that when you say human being, you think that means you are free. But they're saying that human beings are monstrous. They are enemies of the state. That means the country, because there's 50 states, 50 countries. So if as an enemy of the state or an enemy of the country, guess what they're supposed to do to you? Treat you as such. And yet you're here saying, I'm a human being. I have human rights. And you're using cultural science. You think that the science they're telling you is actually has to do with the real reality of nature, when natural law determines, are you going to be public, do whatever, and just be herded and shepherded because they can't trust you to do things for yourself? Or are you going to be private to where you get to go ahead and say what's there? You said Elohim has given you free will. Sure. So why do you sign your free will away? Why is a social security card signed? Because when you sign that, you're saying you don't want free will. See, the devil or any demon, even in spirituality, cannot come and overtake you unless you give them the right to do so. You said those rights have been given to you. No, law doesn't give rights. Law protects rights. Nobody gave me the right to travel. That's why I don't drive. By definition, you only drive when you're behind the wheel of a car for your job. Did you catch that? By definition, you only drive, legal, lawful definition. You're only driving when you're hired to do so for somebody else. So if I get pulled over, right, for doing something, right, and you got to be honorable. If you do wrong, admit to guilt or whatever, right, as far as if you do wrong. However, if I'm going down the road or something like that, right, You hear what I'm saying? If I'm going down the road and I get pulled over, I'm not getting pulled over. They say, hey, are you aware you were going over the speed limit? Sure. If they say, are you aware you were driving over the speed limit? I wasn't driving, but it's possible I could have been traveling over the speed limit. Why? Because you have the ability, you have been given Elohim's right. Elohim gave you the right when he created you to travel however and wherever you see fit, right? But when it comes to driving specifically is a legal term that says you have to be able to be licensed. And really the only person that licenses you is your license, so that if you are employed by somebody that says they want you to drive, you can go that way. So you're speaking about something else. You're right. We're talking about something different. We're speaking about something completely different. You said, am I insinuating you're selling your soul by abiding by today's law? Jesus is your king. Well, yeah, Jesus is your king. Yes, Yesu, half man, half Zeus. But for those that have said Yashva is our king, Elacham is our king, Aleph Lamed, Aleph Lamed, Aleph Lamed He, Yad Mim, Elacham, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right, as our king, Yashva, Yad He, Shin, Vav, Ayin, a hand leading us through the Holy Spirit, allowing someone to be destroyed and nailed for us, that we might be able to have a different countenance. There's laws and principles that we're supposed to abide by. He carried his cross, you carry yours. Prophets were gone against because of what they did. Prophets will go against you because of what you do, sure, right? But at the same time, it's law and case study. See, you want to dismiss the works. We got to be careful. Jordan Maxwell, a little bit. I'm not huge into Jordan Maxwell. I know of Jordan Maxwell stuff, and be honest with you, I haven't really broke it down. I've heard many people speak on it, but I don't like to speak on stuff just that I've only heard. So I can't really give you much in that, in all honesty, without giving you somebody else's opinion and not something I could say is contextual facts. You said you do classes on, well, yeah. We teach, matter of fact, starting next week on Tuesday. For 2 months, we do 2 months each class for each semester for each subject. And starting next Tuesday, we'll be doing Sovereignty 1 and Sovereignty 2. Right. So you take one or both if you're able to keep up with both. And we make sure that we teach you something that's simple about just how to make sure you do your DS-11 correct. You said, so signing Social Security, passports, job contract is giving the principalities. Well, it depends on how you're signing it. If you do a passport on DS-11, if you look on the passport, it literally teaches you, like we teach you how to see these things, right? And I can show you one-on-one if you want, but it's probably more beneficial to take the class, and the class is just via donation. But so it's not no $1,000, $500 course, nothing like that. Right? When you look at it though, it says right on your DS-11, which is the form you fill out for your passport. It says there, when you look at the part you're not supposed to sign, doesn't mean you're not supposed to read. This is where people get twisted, right? They do little things that are tricky when it comes to contracts, not just in the government. People do this all the time because contracts are more binding than the Constitution itself. The Constitution, once again, doesn't give rights. It protects rights. If you sign your rights away or somebody else has your rights, the Constitution can't really save you that much unless you know how to make sure it's without prejudice, UCC 1-308, blah, 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 right? But when you look on there in that section you're not supposed to sign, look it up. Look it up on Google, DS-11, on the first page that you're supposed to fill out before the fifth page overall, because there's 4 pages of instruction. The 5th page of the first page you're supposed to fill out. In that section that doesn't have anything, or you're not supposed to sign, and they're going to put your picture there, and then you're going to sign it at the end after somebody's seen you fill out the whole thing. Look, just read it, and it'll say there's a difference between are you going to be a U.S. citizen, or are you going to be a non-citizen national? You have the choice. A lot of people just fill in U.S. citizen, and you sign it. When you sign it, you authorize and say, hey, I am part of the citizenship. Now, you think U.S. citizen means the same as person who's protected by the United States of America. U.S. citizenship is somebody who's under the United States Corporation. And if you don't believe in that, all you have to do is look up 28 USC 3002 15A as an apple. And when you look it up, guess what you'll discover? You'll discover there that you'll see that the United States is in fact a corporation. If you do some more research, the corporation is the corporation's head offices are where? In Washington, D.C., Washington, District of Columbia, Washington, Father God, Columbia, Mother God. Telling you the same Osiris Isis story, if you know how to even go any further than that. Like, you're dealing with stuff and you think that there's separation of church and state. You don't realize that all these places come from the same place. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. Whether you believe science came first and then religion came next, or whether you believe religion came first and science came second, at the end of the day, guess what? Guess what? They both came from the same place. That's all we're trying to get people to see, is that if you can recognize they both came from the same place, you need to see, because watch this, there's a science of how they get you to sign a contract. And if you want more information, all you got to do is go to since you're on TikTok, if you're on YouTube, all that stuff is in the description box. If you want, though, go to TikTok and look up. Just click on our link tree. You click on the link tree website or YouTube, whatever. You can fill it out in both places, or you can get in touch with us through both places. Right? If you see the number, it's better to text us. And I'll get back to you ASAP. If you see the email, just email us. We'll get back to you ASAP. Right? Hopefully that sounds like a deal. All right. Or you can DM us too. And as I don't really have time all the time to look at my DM, but if you want to DM us, once again, classes don't start till Tuesday. So that should give you just enough time to where we can have some kind of conversation about it, get you in there. How you doing, Shadow? Thanks for being part of the community. Curiosity is a human trait, and religion or belief in Elohim is within us. Science tries to deal. I'm sorry. I didn't catch what you said. I said curiosity is a human trait, and religion or the belief in Elohim is within us. All science tries to deal. I don't know exactly what you're asking. Are you saying is religion really a trait of human beings, or is the belief in Elohim within it? Yeah, I don't comprehend exactly what you mean. I'm sorry. If you can maybe help me out a little bit. You said that's so sad. You hope I can get sober. Sober from what? Because I told the truth and you don't know about something? You're talking about what I was talking about. Literally, you can have a passport that says you're a U.S. citizen or citizen of the United States of America, and you don't know the difference. Matter of fact, your passport, if you have one, probably says, what it was, number 5 and number 6, something like that. They're right next to each other. Number 5 probably says United States of America, all caps. No. It probably says United States citizen, but then all caps, it says you belong to the United States of America. 5, it says you're just a citizen. Number 6, it says who you belong to. But if you get your DS-11 done correctly, it'll say number 5, that you are not a U.S. citizen, but you're a non-citizen national or United States of America with only the capital U, capital S, capital A, and then it'll say on the other one that it belongs to the United States of America as well, which means literally it's 2 different things, right? For example, I served in the United States military, right? And if you did, thank you for your service. But if you're aware of this, we have the same pledge, or we had, I'm not in it anymore, but we had the same pledge that your president has, your governors have, your congressmen have, your police officers have, but you don't pledge allegiance to the United States of America. You pledge allegiance to the United States. Different, right? Right? I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's different. Right? You don't even know in your Constitution. Look it up. The 13th Amendment in your Constitution. Once you get past the 13th Amendment, you'll actually see the word citizen. Every time you see the word citizen, that word citizen is lowercase. From the 14th Amendment on, everything up until that was uppercase. Matter of fact, it might even start with the 13th Amendment. I'm not sure. But they literally showed you, but because you don't know how to read law and case study, you're like, oh, that sounds terrible, but read this stuff. You think that that's happened on accident, that everything up until a certain amendment having to do with freedom, right? Even though Black people weren't even considered to be free and women weren't considered to be free, and only 6% of white men could even vote in the beginning and stuff. But, eventually this stuff catches up to where they had to allow us, especially with freedmen and stuff like that, and what they did for women as far as suffrage and all that stuff. They changed stuff. You think that was accident? You think that was completely accidental? See, there's a science to even getting you to sign a contract. There's a science to getting you to think that I could tell. There's a science that gets you to believe. There's a cultural science that gets you to believe that what I'm saying is completely off, even though you can read it for yourself, but you won't read it because why? Somebody read it to you. So somebody had to pledge allegiance. These are science tries to deal with facts, to give us the best facts you can come up with. Yeah, to a degree. To a degree, it depends once again on the culture of the science. We don't talk about who's the scientist. It's like when you talk about religion, we don't talk about who's the religion. You said, am I spiritual or religious? Once again, religion literally means what a legion of people repetitively do. So a lot of us come on here throughout the day. Oh, I'm sorry, Cookie. I don't know what just happened. like legit on its own. It just muted you. Hold on one second. I don't know what happened. Like it literally just popped up on screen and said you were muted. I don't know what happened. Hold on. Uh-oh. My thing is moving on its own. Hold on. I must have got water or something on the screen. Really? What's going on? Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I think I got water on the screen. It should be fine. That was weird. I do apologize. Hold on, Cookie. I'm taking you off mute. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry about that. Must have got water or juice or something on the screen. It's weird. All these devices and everything, all it takes is something that simple. Before you know it, you're off. I'm gonna try and turn the air conditioning up some. I'm hot. All right. Okay. Let's see if that works. So sorry about that. I did not mean to do that. Hopefully you're back on with this Cookie. Sorry about that. It started shutting me down and everything. I don't know what was going on, all because some water got on the screen. How you doing, Shlonda, Alexis, Ronaldo, Alan? Thanks for being on. What was I saying? Oh yeah, it depends on what culture. See, that's part of the issue too. It's like we're talking about culture. So citizen and citizen thing. Yeah, well, there's a difference. See, watch this. Somebody who's a sovereign, there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen. Either you're sovereign or you're a citizen. So if you're a citizen in your mind, you've been taught that a citizen means that I'm part of a kingdom. So, or part of a community. So I must be taken care of. But the reality is you got to see what culture. See, in the kingdom of heaven, every citizen is supposed to be allowed to be a fellow heir with Yahshua in high places. See, that's a culture, right? But they use the same principles, the same mindset, the same word type usage. And then you say, oh, I must be a citizen. But no, citizen here, you don't want to be a citizen. You said religion was made to cause division. Yeah, so was Darwinism. Yes, I am. But so was Darwinism. So was eugenics. So was Carl Linnaean type theories. So you can say that about anything. See, my concern is not your religion. My concern is what does your religion do for the people? Right? Yeah, you can always redo the DS11. You just got to set up an appointment to do it. But once again, if you don't know how to do it, don't go there because there's certain things you have to write in and there's certain things you better take care of. Right? So I could show it and show it and show it again. I'm telling you, you want to go through this with somebody, whether it's me or somebody else, make sure that you sit down and go through this and make sure that you have it written out. Do some practice runs, stuff like that. Sit down with people and make sure you have this stuff together. You said Darwin found bits and pieces. The world's history science of today is much stronger. Yeah, sure, but your foundation is Darwin in a lot of ways. Now, there's 6 types of evolution. So first of all, we have to realize Darwin, for the most part, is only talking about the 5th type, right? But a lot of people are dealing only with that 5th type. So if we're going to deal with that 5th type, then we got to make sure that we recognize that Darwin was foundational. Just like if we're going to admit, we got to admit the people that did the Crusades, the Pope and them, they were foundational to a lot of BS. That still goes on today, correct? We got to admit that. Like, we got to admit that Idi Amin was foundation to a lot of BS that goes on in this country. We got to admit that, like, hey, it was a nice, supposed nice gesture to be able to have Monroe and then later on Abraham Lincoln say, let's go ahead and send a bunch of black people over to Liberia. But Liberia is not what y'all think it's supposed to be. It's foundational. It's foundation. You can't run away from your foundation. You can't run away from your father. I know, oh, my father didn't raise me. I'm separated from my father. Guess what? You still carry that baggage, whether you like it or not. And if your father wasn't in your life correctly, then it means that you're not going to live your life correctly. I know you don't like it, but it is. Right? So we're not going to run away from our foundation. You got to deal with that, and you got to seal that. You got to fix that. Right? You got to fix that thing. It sounds nice The same Abraham Lincoln, he's like, let's go ahead with Frederick Douglass. Let's try what Monroe did again. Let's try and send everybody over to Liberia. Let's send a whole bunch of people over to Africa. Problem is, just like Monroe didn't do, is, you didn't deal with the fact that you had this weird mentality. You were a slave owner. Lincoln himself, who was a former slave, right? Who was a slave owner himself, and told people before he ran for president in 1858, 2 years before he ran and won in 1860, when people started seceding from the Union, when they knew he was going to win, before that, 2 years before that, he tried to give a plea to people to tell them, hey, I don't even believe that black people are on the same level as white people. He was right. He said later on, if I could win the war and keep slavery, I would. If I could win the war and get rid of it, I would. If I could win the war and keep some and not. Why? Because his main goal as the president is not about slavery. His main goal is what? To preserve the Union. Right? So at some point, you got to deal with where you came from. So yeah, sure, Darwin, you can say we got stronger, we don't believe this and blah, blah, but don't run away from Linnaeus, address him. Because if you don't, you're still repeating the same thing. Don't run away from Darwin. Address him. If not, you run away. Watch this. Don't run away from Charles Darwin's cousin, because that's who took eugenics to the next level, right? You run away from that. So that means don't run away from the IQ test. You see what I'm saying? Like we're still dealing with the same thing. Don't run away from the fact that you're going to have a draft where you're going to have brothers, white brothers and black brothers, by the way, right? And everybody in between. But you're going to have brothers out there buck naked. So you can watch them and like stop, feel on them, have them jump, do all these different things, test them, say all these different things or whatever to see if they meet your criteria so you can have them on your team as an owner. You're dealing with gladiatorial games. You said people can be wrong even if they're president. Yeah, Lincoln was clearly wrong. People who are using science can be wrong, just like people who are using religion can be wrong, is my point. I'm trying to get you to see that this whole science versus religion thing was designed to be able to get you and I to fight. And I'm tired of fighting something that's based off of a weak premise. The foundation to that is weak, right? The foundation is just as devastating to people as a foundation. And I don't know if I can say just as, but pretty close to the foundation that allowed for stuff like the Willie Lynch letter to exist. Just like you said, don't allow certain people to fool you like Lincoln, Mother Teresa, Gandhi. I have no problem with anything that you say about those people. Some Penn and Teller type stuff, right? I'm with you, though. I'm with you. You said your son needs to renew his passport. You filled it out as a U.S. citizen. Once again, just DM us or look at our link tree on TikTok or go to our YouTube page, and we have information to get in touch with us on all those things, right? You said you never want to fight with me. Well, I'm not really trying to fight. If anything, I fight for right. If anybody's on the wrong side, then you're gonna have to get these hands, by proxy, right? What'd you say about a week ago? You got blocked right after I told you weren't blocking people. What's up? I told you that I'm not a moderator. And I told you that the moderators are on here to keep a safe space. And I trust the moderators because of people who come on here and do things that don't make it a safe space. So if you have language that shows that you're not going to make it a safe space or something like that, or you're already, instead of even saying hello, you're already coming on to try and be like, I'm going to tell you how you're wrong because you blocked me. Then, right? But by the way, you weren't blocked. You were muted. If you were blocked, you can't come back on. So even what you're saying is not true. Right? Like if I blocked you, first of all, you would have seen me go to the screen and do that. I have to actually touch the screen to block, but nobody blocked you, or else you wouldn't be able to be heard. So if you have something to say as a human being and treat people with respect, we honor your humanity as best we can. And if I don't catch your what you're saying right away, please forgive my humanity. Right? I'm not the Most High. But thanks for being back on, Grizzly. If that's your way of saying hello, thank you. Hello to you. And I hope you're having a great and righteous day. You said this is one of the chances you have respect for. Oh, no problem. Thank you for being on. Because even if we disagree, like the main thing got to be the main thing. I'm just trying to give a cultural perspective that people don't recognize. We're fighting science versus religion, and it's one of the ways to keep you divided. You think that the only way to once again, because we think religion means what the name of your group is. That's not what religion means. Religion. What a legion of people repetitively do over and over again. I don't mind your religion or your science or your religious science or your spiritual science, your Scientology. Like I want to know. At the end of the day, I want to know, what does it do for humanity? What does it do for my people specifically, but humanity in general, obviously, and even more specific, what does it do for my family? What does it do for me? If it's not really helping anything, then in all honesty, it's just not a religious act or a repetitive act that I'm trying to be a part of. You said you feel like dense population causes social detachment, like it's becoming overwhelming to overact or to interact. I mean, there's many different things, but people are without natural affection. That's natural law. People don't even look at laws for protecting how we naturally have affection for one another. So if we don't have that, then that's a big part of our arsenal that we have to fight against the lows of systemic oppression of any kind, whether it be uh, chauvinism, male chauvinism, misogyny, misandry, people trying to say that our masculinity is toxic, schisms of any type, capitalism, racism, all those things. Even when you talk about capitalism, capitalism as a system based off of a science. Like we're so busy like fighting these terms. Like we have to grow past these things that cause us to be there. How you doing? I think I saw you pop in there, Brother Vincent. How you doing? Thanks for the love again. How you doing, Jesse? Clevon, can I suggest some books? Some books, what, in general? Here's a book. I don't know if you haven't read this one, start with this one, right? We always talk about like, give me multiple books. Start with this one and learn the culture behind what's being spoken. It's always about culture first, right? But start with this one book and be open-minded, because this is a book that's not saying black attack white. It's saying all of us got in order for racism to be something that's in place. PTSS, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. Excellent book. Many people probably heard something about it, but never read it. Read it. Or at least bare minimum, go look up her speeches on YouTube. Go look at a bunch of her quotes and study them. Like, don't just hear it. Don't just be like, oh, that sounds nice. Or, oh, I'm against it. Study what she's saying. She's somebody she's using, because when a lot of people mean science nowadays, they mean a very Eurocentric mindset. They say, you got to write it down the way we want it written down, and you got to measure it the way we want. And that's the only way it can be true. Like, for example, if y'all heard this name, I love me some Dr. Jordan Peterson. Dr. Jordan Peterson got it going on with a lot of stuff. A lot of his stuff is going to be, hey, if I can't have it where I feel like I can go ahead and I can say that it's cool according to my Western culture, right? Like he'll tell you Western society, Western culture is the only reason why people live a long time. Before that, everybody was dying off in their 20s and 30s. It's like, not in Africa, not in Turtle Island, not in Australia, not in some parts of Russia, not in Mongolia. You're talking about specific culture, right? But he's going to label it as everybody. See, like we got to get to this point. We don't want to be honest about the fact that even your science is cultural, because people are bending the science to make it make sense in their culture, versus saying, is there a culture that supersedes all others? All right, let's talk in that. Right. So, but I would say read that book, Dr. Joy DeGruy, PTSS. Stands for Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Great book. You said no two people on earth are going to have the same point of view, but I respect yours. Oh yeah. I mean, we're all supposed to be parts of the puzzle, right? But here's the goal. See, because if we're not careful, what we do is, well, I only see on one side and I see the other, right? I don't have any coins on me. I don't know. I don't know how well this is going to show up, but I'm going to try and use this as an example. So somebody will be, let me see. Actually, let me do this. My little dirty, I spilled something in here. I don't know what it is, right? But can you see it? Okay, you can see it on both ends, right? So this is a card. On one end, right, it's got stuff for an aquarium, right? It's got stuff for an aquarium. On the other end, it's got stuff for this or that or whatever. This ain't even mine, but whatever, right? So it's got the aquarium stuff on one side. It's got this stuff on the other. Okay, so when you look at this, the front is saying one thing, the back is saying something else. So you can say the front has a different point of view than the back, sure. So the front can try to explain what it sees, the back can listen. But then here's another step. If you're saying, well, I want to believe it just because you say it, then fine, let me show it to you. All I got to do is flip it. Be willing to flip your concept a little bit. Be willing to see it from a different point of view. Be willing to see it from a different type, Change your perspective, shift your paradigm, flip the pancake. Stop talking about the pancake is cooked and just because of what you see. No, you got to flip it to the other side. If you're not whole, then you can't even use the term holy, right? Holy literally means put a W before that H, be whole, right? So it doesn't matter. Like I came from places that have dense population. And I went and visited other places and stuff like that. Other places that have dense populations, they treat things somewhat different too than we do. There are certain things that are going to stand, but there's certain things that don't. It's cultural. Like a dense population in Ghana, is different than a dense population in America. A dense population in Ireland is different than a dense population in America. A dense population in England or in Canada can be very similar to a dense population in America, though. Because you're talking about culture. And we're missing that part, right? That there's a culture to it. So we hear all this stuff about science, but we don't think about how science is affected by culture. It's always culture first. You said no, you definitely got blocked from the room. You weren't able to get back in and watch. Okay, Grizzly, if you're blocked, I'm telling you, you can't come back. You made an assumption, you weren't being heard or something, or you couldn't come back. I mean, unless somebody made a mistake and didn't and unblocked you. Right? But you can't be blocked and then come back later on. Like you can be muted for the rest of a line, but you can't be blocked. If you're blocked, you can't come back. Like everybody who's been blocked, there's hundreds now because we've been doing this for years. I can literally scroll through and still see everybody who's blocked and unblock them if I choose to. Right? Even if I'm not the person who blocks them, I'm the person who's got like the master lock, so to speak. So I can block or unblock whoever I want. But if you blocked, you can't come back. But once again, see, you're coming to the thing of being so confrontational. Are we talking about that today? Do you want to actually participate when we're talking about today? Or is your whole thing, hey, I'm going to come here and tell you you're a fraud because you got blocked? If that's the case, like, okay, like, let me be a fraud in your mind and have a great day. Like, no shade to you. Right? How you doing, Minister Select Joseph? You said, I just listened. I've been listening for a few months, taking it all in. Oh, okay, well, thank you for listening. Right? And what I missed? Oh, he said, well, first off, there's not many genuine people out here. Sure, I guess. Genuine as far as what, though? Like somebody can be genuinely, somebody can be a genuine, forgive my language, right? Forgive my language, right? But somebody can be just to make to rain, right? I feel like pushed to say this. I don't want to say, but somebody can be a genuine jackass. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about in genuine? Like, I guess you're saying a lot of people don't tell the truth. Well, you're talking about, once again, a culture, societal norms. You said, what do I think about white Christian nationalists? That's a new term that people are using. I think you should just call it what it is. Like if somebody's a racist or somebody's puts America first or American values first, at some point you have to put the whole thing that put America first. Like you have a lot of people who preach, whether black or white, by the way, in all honesty. But you got a lot of people who preach who are going to be preaching more politics than anything else, right? They don't care. They don't care about kingdom first. They care about politics first. So that's why I forget the guy's name, but that's why that guy is getting all this play now for being like, if you vote Republican, if you don't vote for Republican, but you say you're a Christian in this country, then you're blah blah blah. Well, guess what? Like, first of all, that's not even true because Cristianos, their history goes with, doing a lot of homosexuality, bringing a lot of different things. That's why Paul has to address some of those things in some of his letters, because Cristianos is different than people that are in the kingdom of heaven. The word Christian didn't even exist when the Bible was initially written. If it was, the only argument is for two places. Both places, it kind of makes fun of being Christian, one place, or the other place it says, if you're going to be a Christian, fine then. Actually be one. Since you want to go ahead and make it about this and that, you don't even live up to your own standards. But white Christian nationalist is like a new term. I think we got to be careful with some of these terms because not every white person who goes to a church is a white Christian nationalist or whatever we're trying to say. Because we're basically trying to say they're KKK that dress up in suits and put on dresses. And I don't subscribe to that. I get what people mean. There are a lot of people that hide racism and Christian values, sure. Just like there's a lot of people who hide prejudice if we're not careful. If we're not careful, there's a lot of people that hide prejudice and Afrocentric values. There's a lot of people who hide hate for women in Christian values. There's a lot of people that hide hate for men in Christian values. There's a lot of people that do dating. You know, the dating's not even biblical, but you've got a lot of Christian mingles and Christian dating sites and things like that. So they go against the very culture that they claim to represent, right? Like nowhere in the Bible will you ever see that two people went on a date. It's called post-traumatic slave syndrome, PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Think PTSD, because she was going to name it post-traumatic stress disorder, but she decided, and then she was going to call it post-traumatic slave disorder, and then she decided to call it post-traumatic slave syndrome. And by the way, I love the book because it's a place where you're taking science and belief and you're putting it together. She doesn't really do that much belief. She stays to the scientific, but she's somebody who's been trained, is a doctor, you know, teaches, has traveled the world. This is somebody who's giving you scientific notation because she knows that in the culture that a lot of people come from, they think that education has to be writing it down so that it can be approved or accredited. So she makes sure that she goes through all the rigmarole to make sure that y'all can't say she didn't go through the right channel. So I think it's an excellent place, especially for think tank type thing. You have to admit you're proud, that you're a proud homosexual and you've always worked hard to make a difference. I mean, okay, if that's what you choose to do, right? That's part of a culture. So if that's what you do, that's part of your culture. I don't have a heaven or hell to put you in. If somebody were to ask me about it from a biblical perspective, I would tell them about culturally why it's addressed the way that it is and why it's something that we're separated from within our culture, right? But if I see you as a homosexual and you need help, you need food, you want to hug, you want to talk, I wouldn't shy away from that just because you're homosexual. So once again, it depends on where you're going to, right? Even when I address these things, you'll never hear me be like, because you're homosexual, you're bad, or you deserve to go here, blah, blah, whatever. I don't have anything to do with that. It's culture, right? It's somebody's science, somebody's religion, somebody's spirituality, etc. It's coming from a cultural perspective. And we don't like to talk about the culture. Thanks for being part of the community. Is it what, Fred Depeps? I'm not sure. He said, see the door, not just the doorknob. Yeah, I like that. Okay, Grizzlies just on some arguing stuff today. All right, no problem. And depending on where you were, Grizzly, by the way, I don't know if Grizzly's still on. Somebody said he got blocked. I don't know. But the thing is, if you're listening, Grizzly, it's weird because I think you might be talking about the day that somebody kicked us off because they lied about what we were doing. So hopefully you weren't that person. I don't think that you are. But somebody lied about what we were doing. So we got kicked off. We had to go over to Kofi_42. You couldn't find us for a few days because we weren't on there for like 4 days in a row, 3-4 days, something like that. I love it when people don't like just, like you can go research this stuff. We had to do a whole thing. I'm still talking to legal to make sure that they get their act together and they stop allowing people to lie on us. You said what God thinks about child bone cancer. Well, once again, I don't believe in God. But if you're saying that because a child can get bone cancer and therefore it has to be on Elohim, all right. So did Elohim, I guess, so let's ask you this question. Does Elohim, or who you call God, right? But does Elohim, is the creator? Let's just do the creator because you want to call him God. God is another person's culture. Doesn't have anything to do with us over here. But okay, do you believe that Elohim wanted your child to have cancer or wanted a child to have cancer? If that's what we're talking about. You said, what kind of God talks about bone cancer, right? What are we talking about? I don't know what we're talking about, Paul, because we weren't talking about this. So you got to help me out. I'm trying not to just come at you in the wrong way or something. I don't know what exactly you meant, but we gotta deal with that. How you doing, Minister Select Omar? We got to deal with that. Like if you put that out there, okay, like are we saying that Elohim makes children have bone cancer? Are you saying because he allows it to happen, he's bad? Like I don't comprehend the question. It's kind of just some stuff being thrown out there. I'm not sure if I'm catching it correctly or not, but I'm just saying, like we got to be real. You said, does PTSS affect people who are not descendants of slaves? Okay, who's not? Who are we talking about specifically? What's the culture? Bring it up. Who are the black people, so to speak, because that's a social construct, Who are the black people who are not descendants of slaves that we're talking about? Let's not make blanket statements. That's what I said. I'm not making blanket statements. You see, like that's why I say you got to go culture. People trying to bring in scientific notation and this stuff, or trying to be like science supersedes your ability to be able to think or whatever. Like, question for you: if we're going to mention, I'm still looking for the other question too. Like, are you saying that nobody has any ability to be held accountable for what they do? Therefore, somebody should sin, but Elohim should be like, go ahead and do whatever you want, and don't have to worry about violation of natural law, no consequences that come to that. But once again, like here, but this for the second question now, right? The first question doesn't look like it's going to get answered. Second question, when we're saying, and let me make sure I go back and find it again. I'm sorry. You said you believe Yahweh is the Most High, nevertheless He's still your God. Okay, that's fine because you're in the Germanic deities, right? But Yahweh or Yahweh or Yahweh is not a God. He's Elohim. It's a different context and culture. But if you want him to be something different, hey, that's why I said gods can be whatever people want him to be. I'm just talking culture here. So, you can make them whatever culture you want. What was that second question somebody brought up? I was trying to answer. I can't find it. What was that second question? Oh, does PTSS affect black people who are not descendants of slaves? Yeah, which people? Which people are we talking about specifically? No. Before somebody said, first of all, in ancient alphabet or Hebrew, there was no eh sound, at least not with L, right? Because L is al. Al, first character, Aleph, 12th character, right? Yeah, 12th character, Lamed. Aleph, Lamed, right? Aleph, Lamed, right? Adding up to 13. Aleph, Lamed. Aleph, father. Bull, strong, can cultivate, pools, etc. First character, the Aleph Beit. Lamed, talking about the shepherd, the great teacher, right? Allah, Ha, He, Holy Spirit, Yah, their hand, Father, Son, Holy Spirit pushing us, Mem, in the water, the blood, and the spirit. So we're not even having the same, that's what I'm saying, it's cultural. Are we taking some modern stuff that's changed what it is, which we're not supposed to, according to Yahshua himself in Matthew chapter 5, verse 18, and according to other people that we even want to look outside the Bible, but are in the culture, right? At the time, right? Basically the same time of Yahshua, right? And we're talking about Flavius Josephus, who says that we shouldn't even change the amount of syllables that are in the word. Why are we changing the culture, how it's written? Yahshua said, don't change a jot or a tittle. That's how they say the modern language, that word tittle, which really is supposed to be like the dot on the I or J, right, is also yawed, right? It's in Hebrew originally yawed. It means the hand or the way it was written shouldn't change. So why are we changing it? We come on every day at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, except for Wednesdays where I take time off. But once again, which black people specifically, right? You say, so is belief in general, cultural, science? Belief is set by culture. Science is set by culture. Right? Your religion is set by culture. Your spirituality is set by culture. That's my point. It's like we're having a fight about science versus religion, and there's no fight. They come from the same place. They have the same source. People are distorting both. We just don't want to have that conversation. People are distorting both. How you doing, Boss Exclusive? Thanks for being part of the community. All right, Jesse, no problem. But once again, you see what I'm saying? Somebody would be like, which non-black people, because that's a weird thing. So it's like the person basically hit us with a question: which black people, instead of saying which black people or how are black people, dealing with post-traumatic slave syndrome, which, by the way, I literally said in the book, it doesn't just mean deal with black people who are dealing with how racism was put together, that white people, and that's social construct, white people have been affected by it too, because they had to be taught that white and black is a thing. Like, people think that white is a color, for example. How many of y'all grew up thinking that white was a color? How many of y'all still, until I just mentioned that, are kind of weirded out because I said, I'm asking the question, how many of y'all think that white is a color? How many of y'all think white is a color? Yeah, I hear you conversate. I'm sorry, I caught you. You know, that's true. It is very hard for people in that headspace. But see, think about that. Like this is cultural. People don't want to talk about it. How many people actually grew up believing that white is a culture? Chronosphere, I'm not muting anybody. Once again, the moderators are. And if they are, it's because you're probably saying some things, you're probably going ad hominem, you're probably showing certain things that show that you're a warning sign when it comes to being able to protect this space so that it can be a space that everybody can be able to learn in and feel like it's a safe space. So maybe adjust how you're bringing it across or whatever, and you won't be dealt with the way you're being dealt with. Somebody's already got to you again, right? Like once again, if I'm muting you, you're gonna see my hands doing this. If I'm talking to you like this, I can't mute you with my eyes or with my brain. They don't have that technology yet, and I never let them put that in. Right? Yeah, white is the absence of color. Matter, right? Like, but a lot of people were taught what that they are white, or we have been taught that white is a real thing. I said color first, or I'm pretty sure I said culture, but if I said color first, you know what I meant. I apologize. Yeah, culture comes first. What I said is out of that culture that people believe that white is a color. That's what I was trying to say if I didn't say that. So out of that culture, people learned that white was a color. White was never a color until the Pope to get the Crusades going. He's the first person that started getting people to believe that white was a color. That's where that comes from. You said the definition of black has nothing good. Depends on whose definition. Everything is cultural. There are people called slippery blacks. You know why they were called slippery blacks? You know why slippery blacks? There's a tribe of people known across Afrique, Alkebulan, Ethiopia, Africa, whatever you would call it. You know why they were called slippery blacks? You know about slippery blacks? You know why they're called slippery blacks? Because they were great warriors. They were great warriors. So they fought so many people. People were proud. They were proud to say, "Yeah, if you come and you touch our skin, slippery black." Why Ethiopia? What does that mean? People who were burnt by the sun. By the way, that's actually a Greek term and not an African term. But why did the Greeks use that to call the Africans that? Because the Greeks said that the Africans they learned from the Kemetic people, not Egyptians. Egyptians are somebody else. Egyptians are actually Greeks who would later come and take over, and then all of a sudden become Arabic people mixed in with that, and then French even Arabic, right? Because if a lot of people don't even know, the top two languages in modern Egypt is number one Arabic, number two French. So it's not even the same people, that we're talking about. Once again, people don't comprehend. You're dealing with different cultures and trying to figure out why stuff ain't adding up over there. But they call them the people of the land from the burnt faces, or the people who are burnt by the sun. Why do they call them that? Because in Greece, they believed that the people of Kemet were actually smarter because they were darker, because they knew that because they were darker, they had learned from about the eye of Horus, which basically was their way of studying the pineal gland, and that was their way of knowing that that's where melanin came from. So they knew when I forget what it's called. It's like a mite. What is it? Melisonate? Melasonite. I just learned about this a couple days ago. I'm excited about it. But melisonite, it's called melisonite vibration or melisonite disturbance or melisonite something. But it gets the melanin to vibrate, and in the pituitary gland, when the pituitary gland vibrates or whatever, it causes the pineal gland to be able to give out more melanin or whatever. What you're born around and all those things, right? You said minds have no ill intention, sometimes common current uncomfortable social condition. Well, you can talk about a social condition. I'm talking about uncomfortable social conditions too. I would assume that the reason they're going to you is because of the word uses that you use. Nobody has a problem with you saying that. This is a safe space for anybody and everybody. You can be a devil worshiper on here. Come on in. You can be somebody who's straight up, talking about homosexual rights. Come on in. Like you can be somebody who's on here talking about whatever, right? We just ask that you respect the culture and respect each other. Do I absorb everything that I read? Not necessarily. You read certain things over and over and over again, but I don't absorb everything. But I do absorb certain things. I even try to absorb things that I don't agree with. I won't say absorb, but I try to be aware of certain things that disagree with what I'm saying, because you should also know your enemy or know those who say that you're wrong, to make sure that you can have context outside of just your little ball. You said, well, how did this Julian Islamic Gregorian calendar theory arise? Well, we weren't talking about that, Kenneth, but we've talked about that before. about why you have your dates and different things like that there. And if you count backwards from December, there's actually you're going to get to the number one before you get to January, because Dec is 10. So if there's 12 months, then that means number one is March. We know about Julius Caesar being the reason why it's called July, and Augustus, his son, was the reason why we call it August, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we're definitely aware of those things. But once again, all this stuff is cultural. So even the science that people are saying that we're using for 365 days, like, it's cultural. Like, people don't know that before Julius Caesar went down to Kemet, Julius Caesar was the person in charge of the calendar. He had to keep updating the calendar. That's the reason why he won a couple of the battles that he did, because people thought it was the wrong date, and he would update the calendar. They would rest, think it was a holiday that they weren't supposed to go ahead and fight. Next thing you know, he comes up and he's fighting too late, right? Like, Julius Caesar used those things. Like, we don't know the culture. We think that, once again, we think that science is something that's just straightforward without any culture attached. Forget religion attached. You need to figure out, does your science have any culture attached? Right? Like, you have to figure that out first. What is the culture that attaches? Now, you got to ask yourself, what is the culture that attaches itself to your science? What is the culture that attaches itself to your religion? Once again, religion doesn't mean what you're called, right? Like, you can call me a black person. That doesn't mean my religion is black. You can call me a non-citizen national. Doesn't mean my religion is non-citizen national. But as a non-citizen national now, there are things I do religiously. Religion, a legion of people that repeat the same act. So even in that, like, we're making the assumption that just because somebody is a different religion or does something differently than you do, that they're not actually on the same track or the same path that you are. Right? This is what gets us in trouble. This is where fights kick in. You're assuming that because a husband doesn't talk like a wife and a wife doesn't talk like a husband, the husband says something and the wife gets offended. She doesn't know he's speaking from a place of direction right now, asking for you to lay down the law, that he needs to be respected in this moment so that you can feel secure, or vice versa. The woman speaking, and you don't realize she's speaking from a place of law right now, and she needs you therefore to give direction that backs up her law, and she needs to feel secure by you so she can respect you. I don't really know about Zoroastrianism like that, for real, right? But religion is what you repetitively do over and over again. If you look through a telescope every night, there's a bunch of people that do that. That would be religion by definition. The problem is that we have bad etymology, or we've been taught to ignore etymology, or been taught to redefine words so often, right? Like, people don't even recognize that we've been taught to take what was fine and define it. To something means to deconstruct it, to break it down. So basically, you've defined it, you broke down what was fine, and now you did what? You redefined it so many times. Oh, I don't need to do any retwist. I don't retwist at all. This is my natural hair. This is my promise to the Most High. If that's your way of saying hello, though, hello to you as well. And if it bothers you, I guess you just gotta either deal with it or turn the phone around or just go somewhere else. I don't know, but welcome. If that's all you're getting out of this and you haven't seen or heard anything else, feel free to, go somewhere else. All right, but these are the things we have to realize and deal with and think of. We're having bad discussion. We're talking about, things from a bad perspective. Our etymology is off. We don't recognize. Once again, we don't even know what culture we're speaking on, right? Once again, people say there's nothing great about like, for example, people that say you don't want to be a Negro. Negro is bad. Negro means black, or Negro means white, which is a new one. Never has meant that. You know what Negro is? Negro, or Negro, is one of the most ancient West African names for a tribe of West Africa. And Moors used to be up in Spain, and Moorish people, and before that, Carthaginians, right? Carthaginians before that, Moors before that, they used to be over a lot of tribes that you now know as Spanish, right? And Spanish people flooded in eventually, but the people of Spain were dark skinned for quite a long time. And then as more people who were not black were in there, they were under Carthaginian rule, and then they were under Greco-Roman rule for a little bit, but then they flipped right back to being under Moorish rule, which are the same people basically who were the people of Carthage, basically the same people. So now they learned the language. Negro is one of the languages that they use to describe themselves. Now all of a sudden, you'll have people who are into this new Moorish thing to say, don't be black or don't be Negro, right? Negro is terrible and blah, blah. No, in European society, in their law, on paper, you don't want to be Negro. But for your people, it's fine to be Negro. Right? I say this all the time. I have no problem being black all day, every day, but you won't see me that on paper. Why? Because according to paper, if you write down colored, Negro, African American, etc., by law, you were considered to be an artificial person. Not so much even as far as they don't care about you, but as much as like you're a straw man. I will not be a straw man or an artificial person. So on paper, I will never be Negro. I will never be colored. I will never be African American. I will never be black. It is not a real person. It has no status. Why would I call myself something that in their culture, right? If I'm going dealing with law in somebody else's culture, I need to know the culture that I'm in. Right? That's the problem. Right? You got to know what culture you're talking. You got to know what language. Interpretation means you got to have the culture down. That's legal definition, by the way. Look up legal definition of interpretation. Go to lawdictionary.com or thelawdictionary.com, whatever it is, and look up legal, or just go to Google. Google definition of interpretation and read it. You'll discover that interpretation is based off of culture, it's based off of language, it's based off of who said it, is it a will, what is the paperwork, all that stuff. It has to be properly interpreted. Then it says construction is based off that. If you keep reading later on, after it gives you some places to verify what it's talking about, keep on reading, it'll say that then there's something called construction. Construction is teaching you about what comes on interpretation. Interpretation is foundational. Construction means you make something bigger based off. So you can construct a lie based off of proper interpretation. You can construct the truth. You can construct something that's half lie, half truth. But you don't know the construction. A lot of people are dealing in the construction. So you don't know how to interpret science because you don't interpret culture. You don't know how to interpret religion because you don't interpret culture. You don't know how to interpret spirituality because you don't know how to interpret the culture. So you'll say God bless America. That literally means God bless George Washington. If you know about Washington District of Columbia and what it means and what the obelisk means and what Columbia on top of the Congress building means and how they're talking about the same Osiris Isis story that brings about Heru, right? You're talking about how that comes about to bring about who people call Jesus or Yahshua, right? But you're not even aware that they're talking about a whole different story and say George Washington is the father God, which is why they skip over 8 presidents and say it starts with him. And by the way, it was Morocco that had to allow that to happen in the first place. Morocco didn't know they were going to pervert it like that, but Morocco had to allow that to happen in the first place. So when you're dealing with 1789, 1791, you're dealing with God bless America. Who is your God? George Washington. How you doing, Cash? Right? Same stuff we've been talking about. But we're not aware. You said, are you Moors? Moors or Israelites? More, what are you talking about? You're trying to make more religion? If you're trying to make more religion, but not even religion, right? Because once again, religion is religion. But more, like, yeah, there were Israelites that were Moors. There were Christians that were Moors. There were, right, because they're not the same. There were non-Moroccans that were Moors. There were Muslims that were Moors. There were people that were agnostic that were Moors. There were probably some atheists that were Moors. It'd be shocking to me, but I mean, I wouldn't act like it's not a possibility. So not really worried about that. Not really worried about that as far as, like, yeah, it's possible for me to be Moorish and be Israelite. By the way, I'm native, so there's some of that story too as far as Moors. But yeah, I mean, to say more, I mean, which Moor are we talking about? What kind of Moors? There's a whole bunch of Moors, and not all Moors were one. Right? Not all Moors believe the exact same thing. So there's a ton of architecture that is based on old cultures. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, heck, go to Tennessee. First of all, go to Memphis, Tennessee. Excuse me. You're gonna find a place called Memphis, number one, just like Memphis and Kemet. You're gonna see a big old pyramid in there. If you go to the zoo, you're gonna see all types of stuff, and you're gonna see that same obelisk that I was talking about with George Washington. And just like that obelisk has some water reflective pool that goes all the way over to Abraham Lincoln, you're gonna see a reflective pool when you go in there. Same stuff, most definitely. Thank you, Big Red. Bogwan was well, sometimes they force you to choose something you know not. Yeah, because someone who doesn't know, someone who's not willing to fight for anything, or somebody who won't die for something will fall for anything, or won't fight for something will fall for anything. But if you don't know you're supposed to fight it, why would you? You said, is that into draconian laws? That's into any law, like law in general. You got to see the culture that's attached. I don't care if you want to call it draconian or not, because people will even try to redefine draconian to be able to fit whatever. But at the end of the day, law protects rights. Laws are not bad. I don't go away from law. Law is great. But do laws protect rights? What rights do you protect? You said, what am I? I'm a follower of the way. If you want to say, I guess what you're trying to say is like, what do I identify with? I identify with Yashtel. I identify with Kemet. I identify with Cherokee. I identify with Taino. I identify with Shwe. I identify with, I guess if you want to talk about modern day names, Ghana. I identify with well, in our culture, I identify with Black. I identify with humanity. I identify as a child of the Most High, and I identify as somebody that that needs to make a difference, so that people can see that there's a different way of doing things than what they used to. When is the Sabbath? The actual Sabbath is well, the actual Sabbath doesn't even fall on the same days that we use, but since we're in the land of our captivity, a lot of people just use Saturday as a Sabbath. He said, yeah, at every reset, they changed everything to confuse humans. Maybe Egypt was in America. Yeah, a lot of people do that weird thing. That's something else that's been popping up lately. Like they try to say Israel was really in Utah, and they don't realize like that literally somebody changed up the game. Like somebody literally just took your culture and said, we're just going to go ahead places over here. For example, like with the whole Israel being in Utah thing, they're like, yeah, see, there's rivers named blah, blah. Well, yeah, they just named the rivers the same thing, right? But also, too, Joseph Smith said that Israelites couldn't be Black. They actually couldn't even be the modern Israelites that are white over there now, Zionists. He said they got to be white Americans. And he said that he had tablets that nobody else could use. And he's talking about a different Elohim. And he's talking about a Mormon Jesus. There's a difference between Mormon Jesus and real, and even their Jesus. I wouldn't say real Jesus because Jesus ain't real, right? Yahshua is real. But, whatever. People going to call him Jesus, fine. So there's a difference between Mormon Jesus and Jesus. You got to be hip to all those things. But a lot of us are going off of that stuff. There's culture, like we're talking about. You said Browns in a certain name, you think? I don't remember what I was talking about, in all honesty. You said anyone here of the Browns. Okay, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who that is specifically. But it's always culture. It's always cultural. You said Islam is the only religion that is both. Science keeps confirming what is already in the Quran. Okay, if that's what you feel, and you feel like there's nothing that makes sense in the Bible whatsoever, and only Islam does so. But people of Islam, they say they're supposed to be the correction, or Muhammad's supposed to be the correction of the Bible. So by definition, you can't really separate one from the other, like not like the way you're trying or attempting to, it seems. But at the end of the day, look, like Ishmael is my brother. So if you're coming on here to see if I'm going to go against my brother, you came in the wrong place. I'm just not going to do it. There's just certain things I'm just not going to do. So do I believe in religion? Once again, religion is religion, a legion of people that repetitively do the same thing. So if you repetitively drink something to start your day, that's religious by definition. If you're going to walk today, a bunch of people are going to walk today. If you're going to get behind the wheel of a car and travel, or you can get behind the wheel of a car and drive, that's what you're doing today. Oh, you said your name is Brown? Okay. I'm sorry, I think I missed some part of what you were saying from earlier. You said you're a human from Macedonia? Right. But it's all cultural. It's all cultural. Right? Like it's all culture. We don't talk about culture. So the culture dictates what you think about science. Right? Like, for example, even dealing with the Muslim piece, right? Mansa Musa was Muslim. Mansa Musa's brother, forgive me, I always forget the name of the book, but there's a book you got to read with the Quran, right? That has like Mansa Musa's brother, his youngest wife, or Muhammad's youngest wife, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are people that actually walk with Muhammad, because when you read the Quran, Muhammad didn't actually speak that much. So a lot of people took what he did and started putting in all these different terms. So people said, we got to come together and make sure that those who actually walk with him, like, say what he meant, right? But when you go through and you start looking at this stuff, right? When you start looking at these items, when you start looking at these things, here's some of the stuff we got to talk about. Hey, how you doing? Hidden Grand Rising to you. So here, like you have to even look at that, and you'll start seeing like Mansa Musa was somebody, even though he learned directly from Muhammad's somebody, his brother, who walked with Muhammad himself, right? Peace be upon him, right? That's what we would say, right? That's what you would say. So he walked with him, and yet there was a guy who was a Muslim, IBN something. Forgive me, I can't remember his name, but there's a guy that walked and came over to visit Mansa Musa and said that he hated everything that Mansa Musa was doing, just talked trash about him. But Mansa Musa's, who's a converted Muslim, right, learned everything that he did underneath his brother, who actually walked with Muhammad. But this guy who didn't even walk with him was telling him about this stuff, right? Like, you got to be careful with those. We have to be careful with those things. We just assume that, because somebody's there or whatever. It's like like the Bible says, Hebrews chapter 9, verse 6, not all Israel is Israel. Not right. We say it like this, not all skin folk is kinfolk. Right? Just because somebody says that there's something doesn't mean that they actually live by it. Right? Like I said, I don't care about you. Like, watch this. I'll even go a step further. What I said earlier was I don't really care about your science, your religion, your spirituality. I want to know what it does for people, or what it does for others, what it does for you, what it does for my people, even more specific, or my family, myself. Okay. I don't even care. This is going to mess with some people's mind. Right? Like, and I'll get to you in a second. I see you just, what's that? Just one hat or just one net? All right. I see you. Well, watch this. I want to even go a little further. I won't say I don't care, but if you're a devil worshiper, if you're a cannibal, if you're a Mason, whatever, and I know Mason doesn't necessarily mean you're a cannibal, devil worshiper. Just stay with me, right? If you're a misogynist, if you're whatever you are, right? I want to see, do you actually follow what you believe? That's why I talk to people about stuff the way that we do. Like, I'm like, okay, you say you're an American. I want to see if you actually are about, follow what you believe in. As an American, which kind of American are you? I'm not just talking about public or private. There's two types of American before we even get to public or private. There's the original American and the American that's there now. Which one are you? When you say everybody's an American, stop calling yourself African American or Irish American or Spanish American or Latin American. We'll just all be American, on that Morgan Freeman. Do you believe what you say? Because the original American is a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. That was the European definition, still in Black's Law Dictionary today. If I were to walk into a courtroom and say that I am the original American, they would start looking for proof and evidence that I am who I claim to be. Because I'm not claiming to be the same thing that you are. Right? If you say that you're Muslim, okay, cool. How many times do you pray? What is your jihad for today? Right? How many people are you going to help? Are you clean when you pray? Right? Is there anything around the ankles? You know what I'm saying? Like let's go all the way with what you say you believe in. Right? I don't care. If you say you're an atheist, fine. When you having sex, don't say, oh God. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's funny, but I'm not trying to be funny for real. Like, hey, I need you to stop saying that you believe in universal law, because the word universe literally means a verse, spoken sentence. So you need to call it something different. You don't believe in what you said because you're saying that you believe in something that somebody had to speak into existence. I'm just saying, stop it. Like, stop it. You don't believe. Right? You don't believe what you say you do. You really don't. You're talking a great game, but you don't walk by it. Right? And that's because good and God are the same word. And good and God, by the way, are not even Elohim. It's a different deity, but you claim to feel God or good because that's the best that you got, because that's what your oppressor taught you to call the Most High. Right? I'm just saying, like, do you believe what you say? At least believe what you say. Like, there are people out there that were cannibals and they believed it and they did what they did. Right? White, black, otherwise. They did it. Right? You're going to be held accountable for what you believe. So if you said that's what you believe, then you do what you're supposed to do. I mean, I guess if we throwing Elizabeth Warren in there, Elizabeth Warren, she lied. She's not the first $5 Indian or somebody to claim that they're native and they're not. She ain't the only one, so that doesn't really mean anything to me. I mean, I don't know what human meat tastes like. I'm not trying to learn. If somebody says that's what it is, I'll take their. I guess I don't even know if I'll take their word for it. I don't want to really have anything to do with that conversation. No shade. I'm just saying I really don't. Kind of turns my stomach. Thoughts on which kingdom? We just finished talking about some of this stuff, by the way, when we did our Q&A week, and we have some of that mentioned. If you go to our website, if you go to our podcast, the website has some other stuff, not podcast. If you go to our YouTube channel, we got different playlists. So one of our playlists on there is called Having the Led as We Believe. If you go on there and look at that playlist, you'll be able to see, catch up on some of those videos and be able to be part of the conversation. But yeah, I know it's a deep rabbit hole. Matter of fact, there's a place near, that whole place that they talking about with Hillary Clinton and stuff. I've never been there, but my wife and I, we know exactly where that place is. And we know that there's a bunch of parties. I think we were even invited to one or two of them we never went to. Glad we didn't. Right. But that whole thing about, and it's not just a political thing. Like, it's not just Hillary. Like, you got to comprehend there's Republicans and Democrats that both went to that. You said, do I believe that there's multiple kingdoms or only one? Well, there's the kingdom of heaven. That's our focus. But are there other kingdoms beside that? Sure. Now you're talking about spiritually, there's a kingdom of darkness. If you're talking about as far as on earth, is the kingdom of England, there's the kingdom of America. By the way, because it's a republic, so many of these republics are kingdoms. You get duped into thinking that there's no kings. Capitalism. Who's the king or queen in capitalism? He or she that has capital. So Oprah's gonna do some things and make some decrees and stuff and get some laws passed that you can't even dream of getting done because she got money like that. Right? She's a queen in capitalism. Right? She ain't trying to be the queen for you, but she's a queen in capitalism for sure. Right? She'll attach herself to a Maya Angelou or something like that, but she ain't gonna do what Maya Angelou did. She's not gonna talk to these babies. You remember Maya Angelou used to talk to little black girls and say, you can be this and this and that or whatever, right? Oprah Winfrey was asked by little black girls somewhat recently, like whenever that movie came out with, you remember in the Disney movie, that A Wrinkle in Time? I'd never seen it, never read the book. I don't know about it, right? But you remember that thing came out? Little black girl gets on national television and says, you know what, it was really powerful for me to see you in there and to see little girl and to see, girls with a black that look like me doing certain things. And, what is it that you can help me with? What was Oprah's response? Well, I don't really want, once we learn, it's not what happens just for little black girls, it's what happens for all girls. And that's true. But what this girl is saying is all girls ain't being called nappy headed, right? When they go to school. And all girls ain't being told that their lips are too big when they go to school. And all girls ain't being told that when they start getting certain hip size, right, and Coke bottle frames that everybody else is gonna get, surgery to get, but shit, it's gonna be natural for her. They're gonna make fun of her when she has it naturally, and she gonna want to get rid of it. But when other girls get it and it's fake, they're gonna be lifted up. But Oprah's not lifting up your culture. She's lifting up capitalism. She's a queen of capitalism. She's not a queen of your people. Right? Once again, not all skin folk is kinfolk. I'm not looking to Oprah to teach me about how to make sure that my people are going to be taken care of, or any human being for that matter. Oprah is about making sure that she makes as much capital as possible. She will use whatever it takes. Right? She'll use whatever it takes. Stedman, we ain't going to be married. I might not even have sex with you, whatever. But hey, as long as you're willing to be somewhere on property and have a house or whatever, I'll deal with you from time to time. I'll give you respect because you're gonna help me to build this kingdom, but I'm not really gonna be involved. So she'll give you a fake version of marriage, but then she'll have all this stuff to teach you about marriage. Well, how are you gonna teach me about marriage and you and your man don't even have the same house? You know what I'm saying? How you doing, Sister Carrie? Once again, don't give me the science of marriage. Don't give me the spirituality of marriage. Don't give me the religion of marriage. And you don't even have it in your own house. Yeah, like Boule. That's a great point, right? Right? Boule, which, by the way, when you're talking about Masonic stuff or whatever, well, Boule, everybody who claiming this Greek stuff, You went through all these years in college and made sure you Greek, and you make sure you throw it up, and you throw up your diamonds, you throw up your right, you throw up your canes, you throw up your all this stuff, omega psi phi, this and that. I'm alpha, blah blah, what alpha phi alpha. I don't know these names, right? But whatever you are, right? You got all these different fraternities and things like that, and sororities, and you belong to that order, right? The Pope is up there. You bow down, don't even realize it. You're speaking Greco-Roman stuff. You're singing songs that you're not even thinking about what it is, right? It's cultural. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. They're pumping the stuff from the same place. You said you think some of her behaviors in 2015, 2016 caused people to believe she may have a disease. Oh, okay, I don't know. How you doing, Sister Carrie, if I didn't say so already? Excuse me? All right, Ladybug. What am I drinking? This is cranberry juice. I don't know why it took me so long. Yeah, maybe I am. I don't know. Right? But you got to realize and recognize like that these things are going on. And oh, okay, I did. Thanks. How you doing, Minister Tamara? So I'm just trying to get you to see like people are fighting this battle of science versus culture, or science versus religion, and this and that. We don't even know what the word religion means, and even when we're talking about it, we're not having an honest conversation, right? They come from the same place, and they're using both to be able to beat the bricks off of your unity. Your unity is hanging by a thread, right? Just like some of y'all talk about my hair, right? Your unity is looking worse than my hair. You're concerned about my hair. You ain't concerned about your unity looking like this. It's looking worse, right? My hair might look like it's hanging, right? It might look really bad, but I can't pull it off just like that because it's tighter than your unity. It's tighter than your unity. I wouldn't just pull it off like that anyways, right? But it's tighter than your unity. You should be more unified than my hair. You're more worried about what my hair look like, and does it look like this, and you don't like the free forms and all this, and it's not exactly this, and it's not retwisted on a regular basis, and you can't see my scalp, and blah blah, right? I get it. I get it. I used to feel like that too. Like I had to make sure that something was conform. But you know what? I just let my hair do what it does, right? There's a culture that's attached to it. There's a way that it grows. And I'm not talking bad to try and talk back at y'all. I'm trying to say specifically, like your culture needs to be the same. Why are you concerned about what other people say about your culture? Right? Like people are always going to say it's not what we expect. It's not what we like. It's not what we support. So what? So what? We're not worried about if it's supported by you. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that you can't have your own culture. Like if you can colonize, we should colonize. If you can gentrify, we should gentrify. I ain't got no problem, no shade. I want you to gentrify. I want you to do the best you can to make stuff look like you. Because when you make it look like you, I know where I am. You said the whole thing was not letting black culture, not letting the black culture, but unified and seeing it today. We really not. I'm sorry, I didn't catch exactly what you're trying to say, Kenneth. If you can help me out a little bit, you know. But I'm just saying, your culture should be like hair. Like your hair is on your body. Your culture is on your body. Your culture is on your community. Problem is that you speak everybody else's culture. You're fluent in everybody else's culture, and you're not fluent in yours. That's why people be like, which Bible verse should I read first? And I get what you're trying to do because we've been taught read a specific Bible verse. How you doing, Sister Betty? If I didn't say so earlier, right? But we're like, which Bible verse should I read? And this and that, and blah blah. You should read the culture first. No, which Bible verse should I read? Do you know about a shot? No, which Bible verse should I read? Do you know about a shot? You see what I'm saying? Like, which Bible verse should I read? What does shalom mean? What does shalom mean? Which Bible verse should I read? Do you know the difference between Rashan, At, I don't know, Shai or Shlai? Do you know the difference? Right? Which Bible verse should I read? Do you know Chazon? Which Bible verse should I? You see what I'm saying? Which part of Revelation should I read? Whose revelation is it? Do you know whose it is? Oh, okay. All right. Glad to have you back. Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, we have a cultural problem. We're trying to discuss science. Who's science? Are you talking about chemistry or chemistry? Because chemistry came before chemistry, and chemistry is supposed to teach you about chemet, but they don't tell you that they tried to get the chemet out of the street, right? It used to be chemistry. Now you know about chemistry. But even chemi literally means black. Did you know that? That's the original word what chemi means. Chemi is talking about black because it comes from chemet. So chemistry is just chemistry, but now they're trying to take as much black out of it so you don't even think about it. But when you do chemistry, it's the study of black. And why do they call it the study of black? Because the people who the culture came out of, who have that science specifically, they were black. They were people who didn't mind being black. So when somebody says, "Oh yeah, black has a negative connotation all the time," whoa, 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 according to what culture? Because in Kemet they studied blackness, right? Blackness was not what we call blackness today. See, when we say black, that's why people try to say, "What country is black? What blah blah is black?" Black is not necessarily as much a country or a color, even though it is, but it's not so much on the physical. They're talking about a spiritual, physical, figurative, emotional, psychological, etc. They're talking about a whole way. They're talking about your pineal gland and how your pineal gland goes to a spiritual realm of thought, and how the spirit manifests into the physical, and the physical can manifest into the spirit, and how you have 42 confessions of Ma'at that go with this science as well, right? And how they had pregnancy tests to where they had women, they would plant seeds in the ground and have women urinate on the different seeds to see what colors they were going to turn. Like, you're talking about a whole different thing. You think that brain surgery is some new thing, but they were doing brain surgery way back then, right? I'm not saying that they were perfect and everything, but I'm saying you had brain surgeries back then, but you think it's some new modern thing, right? Like, because you're in a different culture. In somebody else's culture, it's brand new to do surgery in certain parts of the body. But in our culture, we've been doing that. You know what I'm saying? It's a different culture. That's why I say it always starts with culture, which is what somebody calls science. See, when somebody says, "Who is the father of science?" Are you talking about modern science, which means Western? Are you talking about like Greek father, which means Greece? Are you talking about the father? You talking about Kemet, Imhotep? We got a different thing. You said, can we include a beginners class? Well, we can. We kind of do use, I don't know if we have anything that would be more effective right now. I can think about it, pray about it, or I guess see how we would go about it, because we have the series already on having been led as we believe, and we go through a lot of beginning things. I mean, in the Q&A series that we have as well. But yeah, as far as it's see, that's the tough part, is like the beginners thing, because really beginners for us should have been from childhood. So I don't even know. I mean, I had to see, because I would be flooded with culture. I think that, a lot of us are beginners, including myself, and a lot of different things still, because we're still trying to learn culture. But yeah, I mean, it's something we can think about. I just have to figure out how to even articulate such a thing, or be able to lead such a thing. But yeah, no problem. Is that how to say someone hasn't read or having a hard time to read and understand? Where do I say to start? Once again, I'm gonna say culture. It's not a cop out. I know it's not the exact answer, but it's hard, right? So it's like, for example, I don't have I got my boards, but I don't think I have my markers. So I apologize. I can't write it out for you, but I was going to try and write out butter shots, which we have written out on other recordings. So you can go through other recordings and look up different things and try to find it. You probably even type it in, BARASH, like AYT, or even look up in the Genesis Revisited series that we have on our playlist on YouTube, and you'll be able to find it probably in the first couple videos pretty quickly. Probably in the first one, because that's what the name Genesis really means in Hebrew, is by the shot. But like, for example, if I were to say, like, people will say, I've heard people do this a lot, like in Christianity. hey, where should I start? A lot of people say start in the book of John because the book of John is dealing with relationship. John tells you in John 21, the reason why he wrote the book was not so much that you would know every single thing that Yahshua did, because if he tried to do that, he said all the books that could be written about him couldn't be contained upon the planet Earth. He said, however, what he'd like to be able to do is to be able to tell you in John, John 21 says he wrote it that you might believe. So a lot of people say, well, read John. A lot of people say, well, why would you not start with the beginning? Read the book of Genesis. Okay, watch this. In both, there's a word that's badashat. It's 6 characters long. Now, it means in beginning. There is no word the in Hebrew. So, or at least in our, ancient Hebrew, right? So what you get is you get this thing where it's like you see in the beginning in Genesis 1, and you see in the beginning to start off John 1. It should be in beginning for both badashat, right? But what you don't know without the culture is, so you can read it, and you can just read it and be like, yeah, I'm reading either way, starting at either place, right? People say start at either place. So you can start at either place. Problem, though, becomes is that I'm trying to start there, but there's a word that's missing from my lexicon, my verbal lexicon, if you will, barashat. Bet, aleph, sheen, resh, yad, tav. What does that mean? Bet means the son who comes out the right family. Aleph, the father. Resh, who is our head. Sheen, that's going to be destroyed. Yad, leading us, or being led rather, to Tav, to the cross. Those are the first 6 characters. 6, by the way, means finished. So you have a finished word that says in beginning, but at the same time, it's finished. You have Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in that word. You have the Son who's in there being one with the Father, who's going to become our head, destroyed, being led by the Holy Spirit to the cross. Right? That's the first word. Barashat, bara, elachem, achamayim, aras. That's Barashat, Aleph, or Genesis chapter 1. Now, when you read John 1, right, it starts with the same word, Barashat, or what you see as in the beginning. But it says something particular here. It says here, Barashat, in beginning, Elohim created the heaven and earth. And the earth, I'm sorry, in the beginning was the word, excuse me. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with Elohim. The word was Elohim. The same was in the beginning, and the same person, but with him, without him, nothing was made. And then John 1:14 even tells us that word became flesh and dwelt amongst you. But if you look at Barashat, you'll see that it's saying the Son who comes out the right family and the Father. That's the first 2 characters, right? Barashat, Son who comes out the right family, then Father. So that's what it's saying. In the beginning, in the word, beginning, in the word, in beginning. He's literally saying, in the word, in beginning. Now, there was the word, the bet, the first character. That's the Son. And the character, bet, was with Aleph. The character, the word, the Son, was with Elohim. And the word was Elohim. The same person I'm about to tell you about now is in this word beginning, which also means he's in this scroll called beginning. And the word in this scroll called in beginning is Barashat, which is the first word of the Bible. Right? Like that's one that we repeat over and over again, but I'm trying to give that to people because I'm trying to show you without culture, what are we really going to be able to talk about? How many people have read that Genesis 1:1 and John 1:1 and have never seen that? Right? It goes back to somebody from earlier, and I apologize. I hope the person's still on with this. Somebody was saying earlier about they're praying and they feel like stuff isn't working out for them or whatever. It's about the works. Like we don't know the culture. The faith without the works, the faith without the culture. Like culture is huge. Works are huge. What are you doing as far as works? What are you doing on a regular basis every day to make sure that your works are fine? Right? And thank you, moderators. I appreciate it. You said that I block you for saying I'm not blocking any. I keep telling people this. I'm not blocking anybody. Right? But if the moderators are blocking you, like was that Victoria, I guess? If they're blocking you, are you being somebody who's detrimental to a safe space for people to be able to say their beliefs? You can say whatever you believe, but you don't have to be detrimental to the safe space or blow things up or use ad hominem, right? Like you can start out by saying hello and do things like that. Yeah, yeah. You said grounding. Oh, okay. Yeah, grounding works well. Yeah, even who are you praying to, right? But there's a culture. Like we don't know. Like I say Yahshua, right? People have no clue what I'm talking about. That was your question 30 minutes ago. Well, thank you for letting me know that it was your question 30 minutes ago. I'm not Elohim, so please forgive me for not, being able to be the Almighty. I might miss some things here or there. But thank you for hanging in there. So, like, but when we're doing all these things, you said, how are you using all this? How am I personally using all these things? I mean, I don't know. Like, if you're talking about personally or just even in your personal walk. Like, um, well, I treat, first of all, I pray and commune with the Most High in everything that I do. I study to show myself approved. I try to make sure that I'm a great husband to a great wife. Um, I make sure that I treat my son and others with respect. We make sure that we're trying to teach people how to grow their own food and things like that, as well as we're still trying to get our land together. We might not hit our date as October 1st, but we're still working on getting our land together so that we can come together and have a place for food. And if people need to escape certain things in life, or if they want to go somewhere on vacation, or if they want to live there, whatever the case might be, have a homestead thing, about 50 acres or so. We make sure that this is not something that we just do or talk about. Like, actually, the people that are on here, a lot of them I've met, a lot of them I've called and talked to, no matter where they live in the world. We try to go around and talk to people. We do classes. We're about to start another set of classes like this time around: Black History, Sovereignty 1, Sovereignty 2, Natural Medicine 1, Herbalism 1, Hebrew characters, possibly if people give us enough interest, basic Hebrew, marriage class, um, solution for the Black perspective. We also have classes like English, monarchy, because a lot of people say that they love the kingdom of heaven, but they don't know how monarchs actually work. We work diligently and tirelessly. We're on here every day to even answer these questions, comments, and concerns and address problems, because how can you be a problem solver if you don't even know that there are problems? How can you be a problem solver if you won't admit that you have problems? Hey, how can the Most High be a problem solver if you, by your own free will, won't say please? Help me with my problem. You said, can I respond to your comment? Once again, I apologize for my humanity. And thank you for your patience. What is your comment that I missed? Okay. So your whole thing is basically showing Dunning-Kruger effect on my behalf, and showing that I have cognitive dissonance, and doing a lot of this is like, even not straw man, forgive me, when you burn, gaslighting, because you're trying to take this down somewhere else. But once again, you've come in the wrong place for that. Realize that I just said earlier, right? Let me help you with this. Um, Realize what I said earlier. Okay, it looks like somebody might have muted you or something. I don't see your name up here anymore. Okay, well, hopefully you're listening. Oh, no, you're still on there. I can see your comment. So realize I said this earlier. Maybe you haven't been on that long. This is part 2. This is the second day we're dealing with this. And we have a lot of people that come on here and see something that automatically go, God isn't here. First of all, I don't believe in God. I believe in Elohim. You don't know the difference between culture. We're talking about a particular cultural perspective. And even if you don't like my cultural perspective, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to be here. But since you're on here and you're willing to ask such a question, you said I must address you so that I can make sure that you feel like you're being treated like a human being. Here's the deal for you: is that science and religion, they have the same source. And I don't care what your science or religion or spirituality is. At the end of the day, you have to be in a position to recognize and realize that with science that you're talking about, what culture does it represent? Question for you: scientifically speaking, do you believe, right? Because you'll say in science, so you might be somebody comes from, there's no absolutes in science, which means that you can't be absolutely certain about anything, including the Most High. Because, by the way, mathematically speaking, there's less chance of a Big Bang, mathematically speaking, than there is of there being a creator. And that's not my math. That's not my science, right? However, what is the scientific method? What is the experimentation that's been done that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was a Big Bang, proves without a shadow of a doubt there was evolution? Are you still there? Are you still there? You said the Bible teaches that there are many gods. There's many false gods. Once again, though, you're using God. You're talking about somebody else's language, somebody else's culture. But the Bible says that there are many false gods. There's only one, Elohim. But God can be whatever you want by definition. That's why you got to figure out what does good mean. God, good. Like people don't know what God morning or good morning means. See, they took away the you and they put an extra O in there. And so you think you're saying good morning, not realizing that you're talking about a morning of God, a MOURNING, morning of a God, because there's two different gods that particular culture is talking about. You see, so there's not multiple gods. Now you're talking about that lowercase g thing. Somebody once again rewrote that, but even that's talking about that there are many different children of the Most High, but you're not on the same level. It even puts it with a lowercase because it's even telling you specifically in the language of 1611 King James, it's saying, hey, like you guys are not on the same level, right? Right, like you're children of it. You're adopted into a position. You can have 10 children, but not all 10 children are adopted into the position of being the person who will be able to get the money when it comes to inheritance. Right? You can like we're having a different conversation. Like, what about Romans chapter 8, verse 19, right after Romans 8:18, where it says the suffering of this present time is not worthy to be compared to the glory which shall be revealed. Everybody likes that, but doesn't think about the fact it's talking about a particular people suffering. Why? Because Romans 8:19, right? Romans 8:19, right behind it says that the creature is waiting on the manifestation of the sons of Elohim, meaning that not all creature or creation are sons. See, we're having different cultural contexts. See what I'm saying? We're having a different conversation. Yeah, we're having a different conversation. That's why I said culture always comes first. How should you learn more about Kemeticism, chemistry? I mean, there's tons of stuff. Matter of fact, there's a, believe it or not, there's a white guy on YouTube who talks about chemistry all the time. I would suggest you listen to him. He's on point. I forget what his name is. I think he might call himself chemistry or channel chemistry, but he follows it to the letter. There's a lot of black folk I would say go to as well, but I'm just saying you'd be surprised. Like I got to find his name. I don't remember his name. I haven't listened to him in a long time, but a lot of different things as far as vibration, as far as how to read. Get classes on how to actually read the characters, right? The pictographs, so you can learn what it's saying for yourself. Learn the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at, or the 42 confessions of Ma'at. Ma'at, by the way, is a female nectar of righteousness. By the way, learn about nectars. Nectars are different than gods or deities or deists or spirits. So people think that Kemetic people had Kemetic gods or Egyptian gods. Egyptian people might have gods because Egyptian people are not Kemetic people. Remember, first, this is going by that belief system. First was Cush. That's the big brother. That's England. Second out of that was Kemet. That's the United States of America, right? That's the second one. So it was Cush first. Then it was Kemet, right? Down the Nile. You would say up north, but really it's down the Nile River. It was Cush first, right? Then down the Nile River came little brother Kemet. After that, Kemet is having issues to where other people are trying to get in. So Cush, the big brother, right, comes in and tries to help out and can't keep Greece from coming in. So Cush falls off. Kemet gets conquered, right? Cush protects itself. Here comes Greece. That's where you get the Ptolemaic dynasty from, right? Alexander the Great came through there first. Then he dies. His kingdom split up into four, right? That's even in Daniel chapter 7, talking about that beast, that third beast that's got like the leopard body. So he's quick and he's strong, but at the same time, he's got four heads. Right? It's split into four. Ptolemy takes the body of Alexander and takes it to Kemet, right? And then everybody there is Ptolemaic dynasty. Then Caesar shows up later on, and Marcus Antony shows up later on, right? Cleopatra, she was not Kemetic, she was Greek. Right, so you come down there, right? So I'm just saying, like, you got to know even the culture, like start learning those things, right? And then later on, you'll see that it's going to be who we now call Arabic people, but really were more of, certain people that even have like French ties and stuff, because that's why the number one language in Egypt, right? The number one language in Egypt is Arabic. Number two is French. You got to see who you're dealing with, right? In Morocco, right? They actually, a lot of people that say that they're Moroccan, they teach their children French first. They're not Moroccan. At least they're not Moorish, like you think that they are, right? Where they'll teach their children French first, then they'll teach them Arabic. I know this because I've talked to people who were surprised that I speak a little bit of French. The little bit of French I speak well. My wife is fluent, and so when I was playing with my son, I had conversation with people, and they were like, "Yeah, over there we make sure we teach our children French first, then we teach them Arabic." They're telling you where they come from. See, the language that you speak determines the culture that you're part of, and really, what it's supposed to be is the language that you speak determines your people. Before somebody told you, it just made that up in the 1800s with the 14th Amendment. Before somebody told you if you're born somewhere, that means that's who you belong to. That's not how it used to work. Whoever you're born to, it's not where you're born, it's who you're born from, right? It's not where you're from, it's who you're from. See what I'm saying? So when you're talking about the culture, you got to get the culture together. We have a mindset that says that, oh, I'm American or I'm English. I'm English because I'm from right. But what makes you English? Because you speak English. That just means you speak English. You're not English. You're not Angloish, right? Like, watch this. I'm wearing blue. Would you call me bluish? Y'all catch that? Like, I'm wearing blue, right? Would you call me bluish? No. Right? Just because I'm around blue or I'm on blue or blue is on me, it doesn't mean that that's where I'm from. I wasn't born out of somebody blue. I just so happen to have blue on me, right? You wouldn't say that I'm water, right? I just so happen to be born surrounded by water, but I'm not water. I'm right. Even though you could say technically you are water, that's probably a bad example actually, because we are men, we are water, blood and spirit together. So that's a bad example. Kick that example to the side. How you doing, Oil Goat? And thank you, everybody, for your love. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for your likes and shares, any offers and donations you guys give, et cetera, et cetera. We thank you so much for all those things, right? But yeah, we have to realize, like, people are speaking outside of culture, right? We're speaking outside of culture. You said religion has no explanatory value of the world around us. Once again, the word religion simply means repetitive, legion of people that repetitively do the same thing. That's what religion is, right? I and E are interchangeable in the English language, right? So religion, you're repeating. So if you have coffee today, you religiously have coffee. If you're going to go to a job, you're religiously going to your job. If you're on here to make sure that you tell people that they're wrong about something on social media, you're religiously telling people that they're wrong about something on social media. And guess what? Religion, see, you think that what something is called means that it's religious. That's not what it means. Right? Anything that's something, it means that it has to be that, right? If I'm going to rechart it, it means it was charted and I'm recharting it. If I'm going to redefine it, it means somebody had to define it so I could redefine it. That define, by the way, they had to break down what was fine. So what am I doing now? It was fine before. I'm going to refine that word so that I don't have to go into division where we're fighting about something, but we can realize whether you believe it's religion came first and then science came, or whether you believe that science came first and religion came. It came from the same source, the same humanity, the same people. You said there's no evidence that spirituality exists. What does the word spirit come from? What does the word soul come from? Do you know? Because you use a lot of Greco-Roman terms and don't even know it, and you use a lot of Latin terms and don't even know it, right? Let's go to scientific terms, right? If you're talking about science, you're talking about Latin. Who used Latin? You're talking about Greeks and Romans, right? That's why you use it today, because even Europa originally meant anything that belonged to Rome. So the things that you use are things that Romans used to use. You're very romantic. Prove that a soul exists. What does the word psyche mean? What does the word psyche mean? Psyche. What is its original name word? What does that word mean? What does psyche mean? You said prove that a soul exists. What does the word psyche mean? Do you know? You're going to give me a modern definition. See, it's not that. You won't answer my question. So how about I answer the question for you, because you're not going to play fair. The answer to the question is psyche or psyche, spelled the same way, Psyche. It means the same thing in the Greek that I'm about to tell you now. Psyche, it means soul. Psychology is the study of the soul. So if you believe in psychology, then you have to study the soul or have the logic of the soul. If you don't believe in psychology, don't call it psychology. All right? Nope, psychology, psyche, in its original form when it was written, before people try to redefine it because they want to go away from it. It means psychology, right? Let's go further. What does the word universe mean? We talked about that earlier. What does the word universe mean? Universe, a verse, spoken sentence. So in order to have a universe, you have to have a single spoken sentence. If you don't believe in somebody who could speak a universe into existence, then you cannot talk about a universe. You have to call it something different. Why did you change the definition? You redefined it, because right, but I'm going to refine it. It was fine the way it was. You defined it, broke it down so you could try and learn about it, but then you said, I don't like that. I'm going to redefine it, but I'm going to refine it. It was fine the way it was. Universe literally means a single spoken sentence. So you can't have universal law without actually learning about the one who could speak the universe into existence and therefore speak the laws of the universe into existence. See, but this is where we have a problem, because now you're trying to say spirit, spirituality, right? Even the word spirit that you use, it comes from pneuma, pneumatical thought. Look up the word pneuma. Now they've tried to spell it, or they try to change it, Pneuma. If you Google it, they'll try to say it has to do with gas. But they'll also admit in the second definition, they'll be like, yeah, it has to do with the spirit, right? But pneuma is originally defined as stoic thought that marries the soul, the body, and the mind. Mind is different than the brain. The mind is spirit. So the spirit, the soul, and the body, they come together, right? Pneuma, pneumatical thought. That's what it originally meant. In the terms that the scientists would use today. You said psychology is not the study of the soul. That's just blatantly untrue. I'm telling you what it used to mean before you changed the definition. It's not blatantly untrue. You're trying to say that you changed it, and or the people you believe in changed it, that we should go off of what they said. And so therefore, since the culture you bow down to says it's untrue, I should go ahead and release its original form. But I don't wrestle against flesh and blood. I wrestle against principalities. Principalities are things that are in their origin. So I'm always looking for the origin of things before somebody came and said, I'm going to change it altogether. So you can do whatever you want with it. But I don't wrestle against flesh and blood. I wrestle against origins. Right? Like the word psyche literally means soul, but you don't like, so you'll talk about psychology and you're dismissing my psychology or my culture's psychology, but at the same time saying you don't believe in the soul. That's what I'm saying. We have people that are talking about stuff and dismissing culture. You can't dismiss culture. You said psychology is a modern scientific field of study. I'm claiming it's something it's not. No, I'm not. I'm claiming it is what it is. You just never read it before. You just weren't versed in it. You act like you think that I don't have any modern modern education. That's your problem, not mine, for you to assume that I didn't go to school to learn these things, that I didn't have to crack open a huge, thick book, right? And have to learn about psychology. That's your thought process. That's fine, right? You believe that. You don't even know that I started a university. That's part of how I make sure I take care of my family and our community. That I'm a teacher. I've got my degrees, but it's only a degree of knowledge. See, you're arguing from a degree. I'm arguing from a holistic point of view that's holistic within a culture. So if you don't agree with it, that's fine. In your culture, it can be ignored. In your culture, it can be said this is that or whatever. Like, that's fine. I'm not here to try and flip your mindset. I'm not worried about whether you hear it out of everybody else. I'm telling you that I have a particular context coming from a particular culture that can be backed up with just as many facts, and even can make sure that it hits your Eurocentric details as far as having to be accredited. Although the best schools, by the way, are non-accredited. They don't bow down to what you do. So if Oxford doesn't have to bow down to what you were taught, right? And they don't, because they don't want to be accredited. And Juilliard don't got to bow down because they don't want to be accredited. And Berkeley doesn't have to bow down because they want to be accredited. And Harvard doesn't bow down because they don't want to be accredited. Then why would I worry about whether your accredited thought process is something that I'm under? The more non-accredited I become, as long as it's based on truth, don't just be throwing out whatever. But I'm giving you contextual facts. If you don't want to look it up, or you just want to dismiss it and want to go ad hominem and say that I'm just somebody who's out here wild and crazy, then that's on you. Still got love for you, though. And I hope that you continue to find as much truth as you can, because all of us have a degree of knowledge when it comes down to it. All of us are a puzzle piece. And I'm not trying to say science is stupid. And I'm not trying to say religion is stupid. I'm not trying to say spirituality is stupid. I'm trying to say they come from the same source. Resonating in the melanin. Amen. Yeah. Like, so It's not about trying to win. I don't need to be right. I'm trying to be righteous. Righteous means literally to be within right lawful standing or right legal standing. You said, where are the people like us? You seeing some of them in the comment section. You know, respect, but mine's terrible. And the furthest thing from Elohim, but this mod. Okay, well, I got to defend the mod. If you feel like you don't like the mod or whatever, I mean, we got to defend them. They're doing what they're supposed to, right? And hopefully the mods aren't doing anything that are. I don't think that they are. I think the mods are giving people a chance to talk. And I don't think they're just dismissing people just because. How you doing, Dr. Fingers? Hey, how you doing, Sheets? Thanks for being on. Sheets Musher. But it's once again, it's cultural. Like, we don't want to have a cultural conversation. I'm sorry, you said dismissal without an ounce of research on the history he's talking about. Read it, then correct. Yeah, like read, like, or even see if what I'm saying. Because watch this, the same person that says, and this is no shade. That's why I'm trying to say it's from the same source. The same person that thinks that I'm trying to say science is foolish, right? The same thing that thinks that I'm trying to say science is straight up foolish. I think is a person that doesn't get what's happening, because you can't have Genesis or Barashat Allah for what you call Genesis chapter 1. You can't have it without science. We talk about this on our series, Haven't Been Led as We Believe. You can't talk about it without science. Impossible to have that conversation without science. Once again, impossible to have that conversation without science. How? Genesis chapter 1, first day, first Yom. Yom, by the way, is a period of time. So you see day 1, you think that day 1 is 24 hours, which, by the way, doesn't make sense, because days, even in biblical times, it used to be 24 hours. They were considered to be 12 hours. 12 hours was, 120 minutes per hour. So even in that, you see first hour, second hour, you have a different context of time than they even had. That's why I said culture is important, right? But if we get to the nitty gritty, okay, here's the first Yom, or the first period of time, which you call the first day. It says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form and void. It had no shape to it. It was a gas. Okay? Like we make the spiritual so mystical that it's no longer practical at times. It has, right? The earth is a gas, right? It's so spiritual. We try to make the spirit so mystical rather than it's not practical. First things first, it was a gas. It was without form and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. That means confusion. It was without any direction. It was just gas. Because darkness and light, as far as what you think is coming through the physical, that doesn't exist until the fourth day, the fourth Yom. Right? So first things first, it was a gas. It was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. Right? Okay, so now something's happening where it's cooling down some, because it's getting deep. It's taking some kind of form a little bit. And what happens is it's starting to take form on the surface, not through the whole thing, but on the surface, the spirit of Elohim, or Ravak HaKodash, the Holy Spirit. It says she hovered upon the face of the water, the surface. So just because you get something on the surface level doesn't mean the whole thing is taken care of, but there's some kind of direction that's coming, right? So you got gas, and then all of a sudden you got something that's coming together. This is scientific, right? Gas, now it's liquefying, it's cooling down, and it's getting direction. And hey, this is what you are, and this molecule needs to go with this, and this and that, or whatever, right? These things are going together, right? And the spirit of Elohim moves upon the face of the water. Elohim says, let there be light. Once again, you think this is physical light, but it's not physical light, because the sun, the moon, and the stars don't come together. When you study this word, you'll actually find out it means let there be enlightenment. The Holy Spirit hovered upon the face of the water, right? She's the one that brings things to all truth and in order. And when she does this, then all of a sudden Elohim says, now through the proper channel, I can speak enlightenment, and these things became enlightened. And then it says he separated the darkness from the light. There was still some confusion going on. So now I've got to put things in order. This is what is the confusion. This is what is enlightenment. And it was on the face of the water. It was hovering over, right? And so all of this is starting to take place, right? Then the evening and the rising was the first day. Why? Because in our culture, you start at the evening, Before somebody told you, hey, we got to have different time zones, everybody had the same time. So in our time zone, 6 p.m. was the beginning of 24-hour period. So for us, we say darkness to light, confusion to enlightenment. So the first day, that was the end of it. The second day, you've seen it cool down even more. And it says, Yahweh says, Elohim says, let the waters separate from the waters. And so you have an upper sea and you have a lower sea. And it says in between it, he put a kwaya, that was their substance that would keep the upper sea that's liquefied. Now we're going from gas to liquid. This upper liquid saying you see something solid come out of the top. So gas, liquid, solid has already happened on the top. On the bottom, you still have liquid. Why? Because what happened? Elohim's going to be right over the water. Hear the context. Get the context. Get the context, right? Elohim is right over the water. The spirit came down. The spirit was on top and dealt with the stuff that was cooling down on the top. So now the top has beaten the bottom. You have gas, liquid, solid already at the top, right? That's come from the spirit. So you have really spirit, gas, liquid, solid, right? Then you have an atmosphere in between. This Harakwaya that has this atmosphere says this is going to be called heaven. This is going to contain all of the oxygen, all of the nitrogen, all of the hydrogen, et cetera, whatever it's going to be. It's going to contain all these different things, right? The carbon dioxides, all that stuff is going to be contained in this place. He said, let there be heaven. So literally when you breathe in and out, you breathe in heaven. That's why you got to be careful when you pollute, because you're not just polluting the earth, you're polluting the heaven, right? So now here you go, where you come now, but you got this water that's still in the bottom. What happens on the third yom, the third period of the day? You've got gas, liquid, solid happen on top. Now the bottom catches up. It says, Yahweh says, let the earth come up. And the earth comes up just like volcanoes do, right? They have this, if you go to certain places, certain aquariums, things like that, you'll even see that they'll talk about this in them, right? You've seen it on National Geographic or something like that, possibly in your lifetime, if you haven't seen it in person, and you'll see that volcanoes are still underneath the waters, and there's still new land that keeps coming up all the time, right? You think that it's a day, you think 24 hours, but a day in Hebrew here, or the word that really was day, is the word yom. Yom means a period of time. So it's talking about a period of time. So you're seeing volcano, and it says, let this volcano come up from the waters. Now, of gas, liquid, solid up top, where the Holy Spirit hovered over first, that's complete, is now being caught up to by what's going on, where it's gotten down to the water now here over time. It took some time. Who knows how much time? We don't know. We just know it's a period of time. And then from there, it comes out of the waters. And guess what? As it comes out the waters, it also then starts to have something called seed. But the seed doesn't give birth to anything yet. Why? Because there's nothing giving out it's going to give out carbon dioxide. I'm sorry, it's going to give out oxygen. Nothing is giving out carbon dioxide yet, though, right? Nothing there to give it out yet, right? So what happens right? And there's also something else missing. Actual physical light, right? It's got chlorophyll and everything, and the chlorophyll is just, it's melanin. It's got chlorophyll, it's ready to go, but it doesn't have anything to help it out. There's waters even there as far as, because it didn't rain yet, waters used to just shoot up from the ground, but it still doesn't have what it needs. So what happens now? Next thing, fourth period of time. Now the sun and the moon and the stars are set to help with growth, to help with stimulation with the chlorophyll, but also it's there to do what? It's also to set seasons, so you know what season you're in. Okay, but we're still having a problem because you still can't be full tilt. You don't have the carbon dioxide, and you don't have certain things that are going to be there to make sure it takes over the earth, takes on the earth. So what happens now? Let's put birds in the air. The birds are going to start getting stuff popping as far as getting things in the air going with this oxygen carbon dioxide piece. And on the bottom, you're going to have what? You're going to have you're going to have in the waters, rather, you're going to have fish. And even it talks about tinian, or tanayan, right? But tinian, we call it, which is really what in modern Hebrew is a way of saying sea monsters. In ancient Hebrew, tanayan, right? Tanayan, talking about these sea monsters, which sea monsters translate to terrible lizards. Terrible lizards are really translate to awesome lizard. Awesome lizard translates to dinosaur, right? So we had no problems in the Bible even talking about dinosaurs, right? It even tells you about the ones that are in the water, specifically using that word. After that, then you have day number 6. Day number 6 talks about that there's things that are going to creep on the ground. There'll be cattle and all that stuff, right? And then it says, so that's now stuff that can receive the oxygen, everything that's in place. There's stuff that's creeping around the ground to make sure the stuff is being taken care of because we didn't have to till the ground at that point. And now you got cattle and everything being put on there. Cool. And then what else shows up after that? Now human beings show up. It legit just took you through a scientific thought process. But because people think, oh, it's got to be 24 hours, and because people think this, blah, blah, and this and that or whatever. You said primordial volcanic activity caused CO2. No, I mean, I guess we could say that's part of it too. Sure. I guess we could talk about it if you're saying, hey, since that was there, then the plant life could have already started going through things. That's something to think about. But what I'm saying is, even in all the stuff that we put together, it doesn't go outside of the rest. So you have literally a marriage of science and what you're trying to call religion. Because once again, religion doesn't mean what we think it does. But you literally have a marriage of science and religion. You put the two together and you have this testimony. You're reading a testimony of what Yahweh did. Right? But in our mind, we were taught, oh no, it's not the Big Bang, blah, blah. Like, it's telling you scientifically. It's not just saying this stuff just to be like, oh, this is a nice story. Right? It's not just saying that this is a nice story. Right? It's literally saying you can scientifically back this up. Then when you go into chapter 2 and it starts to go from the generation of heaven and earth, right? And it goes to the generations of heaven and earth. Now, when it goes through generations, it starts talking specifically about Eden, and you don't even know that Eden looks different because it even tells you that some of if you go off of modern stuff, well, some of the waters are in Babylon, and some of the waters are over here where Cush had spread out, and some of the waters are in Australia, and some of the waters seem to be this, and some of it seems to be in Africa, and some of it seems to be in India. And it's like, but yeah, you believe in something called Pangea. If you believe in Pangea, now look at that again and go back to Genesis 2 and look at where those rivers would have been located and see if it makes sense now. It didn't go outside of what you even believe. If you are a scientist and say that you believe in something that's Pangea, then guess what? You have no physical proof and evidence outside of the fact that everything looks like it went together. You have never been able to test that that's actually what happened. Right? I would actually agree with you through faith, but you have to have just as much faith as I do. But guess what? Where the real proof is, you should be using the Bible. The Bible backs up what you're saying better than any scientific theory that's ever been out there. It literally gives you a name, which gives you a timeline as to when it happened. And then you can check out to see, is it possible that it would happen on that timeline? It would actually back you up more than you think. But because you try to separate the two, you're missing stuff because you're trying to say one has to be better than the other. It's a trick of the enemy. It's there to get you to be divided. Stop being divided on this stuff and learn that, hey, whether you believe that religion, what you call religion, came first, and then it was science, or whether you believe it's science that came first and then religion, both of them came from the same source. Now we just haggling over the source. We're haggling over the price. We're haggling over, am I willing to pay for the source? Am I willing to pay out for this information? Am I willing to sacrifice for this information? Am I willing to sacrifice to lift up the source? Or am I willing to sacrifice to lift up my belief system? Now we just haggling over preaching. Oh, thank you, King. I appreciate that. I don't even mind being called a jackleg preacher. I know you're not saying it, but I don't even mind I used to wear that as a badge of honor when they say jackleg. But I know, I was because people would assume I was jackleg because at the time I didn't have the same education that they had. But I've been dealing with stuff like this since I was 4. Preaching since I was 6, even though it wasn't this belief system, and became agnostic in my teens. And by the time I got it together and I finally started saying I'm gonna do this correct about 19, 20 or so, been traveled, stuff like that by then, and knew about my family story and things. Yeah. But so yeah, we keep trying to separate. Long story short, I'm gonna take my leave because we still got a little bit of time to go before we actually hit our actual place. We kind of in our sort of halfway point. I think we're only like an hour or 2 away from our destination down South Florida. If you're in South Florida, we look forward to meeting with you guys. If not today, we'll meet some of you today, but definitely tomorrow. I'm going to make sure, please check out your calendar so I can make sure that I got the address and everything on that calendar for you. We're going to double check it today. So hopefully you guys are doing well. and we appreciate you guys. So if you want to meet up with us, if you're in South Florida, all right, and you want to meet up with us, especially tomorrow, we're going to be a little further than Orlando. We passed Orlando yesterday off of 10, right? I-10. So we passed that yesterday. So we're a little further down. We're gonna go further down a little bit more. We're in Port St. Lucie right now, right? So we're a few hours down from Orlando. So we're gonna be a little like about an hour or so further down from there. But if you want to check us out, we'd love to be able to talk to y'all. At least get us your information. I can't say everything publicly today. Tomorrow I can say publicly where we'll be at. But if you want to take a trip down there or something like that, if you feel like it's valuable enough, I know that's very last minute to be able to move like that for some of you. But if you're in that area, in the South Florida area, if you know where I'm talking about, and I'm talking about basically when I say further south, I'm talking about down 95, so about an hour and a half or so further down 95 from where we are. If you can make it to that area, if that's not too big a deal for you, we'd love to see you. Or if we maybe can catch you on our way back, maybe we can see you on our way back. We'll be taking a particular route back as well. But just let us know. Reach out. We've been asking people to reach out for a long time. So once again, I'll say a number you can text. Please text. If you call, I'm not going to be able to answer, at least not for another few hours. But if you text this number, we'll be able to get to you. Also, too, before I put out the number, once again, I say this every time. Go to the YouTube channel and look in the description box so you can get in touch with us. Go to Linktree and on TikTok and click on Linktree, and you can get in touch with us, right? But here's the number: 202-599-7312. Again, that's 202-599-7312. Again, I say 202-599-7312. Last time, that is 202-599-7312. All right. So you can contact us there. If not, once again, just look up the stuff. But we thank you guys for being on. Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate you once again. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Ama, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And thank you those who support her. The tincture of the month is still I am rested. There's many different tinctures and natural medicines that she has, but the tincture of the month is still I am rested. Let's see. Don't forget tomorrow, Saturday. Let's support Minister Sonia as her and Sister Charnice have been doing excellent work. But let's make sure that we support Minister Sonia specifically as she gives a word tomorrow. And we're thankful and grateful for what she does on Shabbat Shalom service. We'll be here for a short version of this, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. We'll go to the podcast for Shabbat Shalom service at 10 a.m. Eastern New York time. Let's not forget that no SOC meeting and stuff like that tomorrow. However, sisters, you do have your 7 p.m. Eastern New York time meeting. So those sisters that want to be part of that, feel free. This Sunday, right, we're going to be coming and having our shofar, our Feast of Trumpets. And so we're looking forward to that. We have some excellent stuff that's going to be up, and we're thankful and grateful for you guys for being part of that. And we appreciate you. And we look forward to that. That'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern New York time. That'll be via Zoom, though. So if you need the link for that, let us know. We'll put I'll try to start putting the Zoom links up on there. But I think actually we have a thing on YouTube and on Facebook that actually has our Zoom link stuff already up. So feel free to go look on there. Let's see. And then don't forget, October 5th is going to be our next Hebrew Holy Day. That's going to be the Day of Atonement. We'll have something for you guys then soon to let you know about that. October 6th, if you want to join us. I still don't really know what's going on. It's supposed to be a surprise of some kind. So October 6th, that's my born day. I'm turning 40. I don't normally celebrate born days, but I'll be celebrating this one. So if you want to join us for that, thank you for that. October 14th through the 16th, we'll be meeting up in Detroit. everybody's going to be coming from all over the place. Instead of us going to meet y'all, everybody will be converging on the same place in Detroit. And a meeting that'll be called Look Beyond What You See. Once again, for more information on that, all you got to do is contact us. If you're on TikTok, go to the link tree on the main page, click on it, and get in contact with us. Text us, email us, etc. That's the best ways to get in contact with us. If you're on YouTube, all the stuff all the information is in the description box already to get in contact with us. I think that's it. Oh, and don't forget, thank you to those who've been getting up with us. Besides the fact that every Monday we get up early on Zoom and we have an early rise of Bible study session where it's very specific and we don't do as much jumping around as we do on the live sessions. Don't forget you can be part of the Patreon kingdom as well. Be part of the Patreon family. Don't forget you can be part of YLP 83, Yah's Land Project 83. And please, ma'am, please, sir, don't forget that every Monday, at least up until October 13th, we'll see if we keep going past then, but every Monday, at least up until then, every day up until October 13th, we've been getting up on Zoom together and we've been doing a workout to make sure we start our day. Just a brief workout, only like 15 to 20 minutes, but we've been doing a workout nonetheless to make sure that we're doing things as far as making sure we get our day started correctly. Okay. And we do have modified versions for those who say, hey, I might be handicapped in some way, or, I might have, or handicapable in some way, or, I might be missing an arm or leg or something like that. We do have modified versions for you all to be able to do. Okay. So if you want to come and join us for that, feel free to. We're still trying to get the stuff going with the children. I think we're closer to it. You guys can see we're still on, we're on the road quite a bit. I think we're going to be able to start the homeschooling stuff for those that are interested in that. So if you're interested in popping in from time to time and being able to get something with your children, or even learn something for your children, but we really would like our children to be involved with it or whatever. We have certain things we can mail out to you guys to be able to partake in and things like that. So just let us know. But we thank you. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for being on and continue to do great things. I guess we'll probably be back with part 3 of this tomorrow. I'm not sure. But we'll continue to go down this road talking about science versus religion and how they're using it to separate. And we might even go into a little Dr. Joy DeGroy tomorrow, since she was mentioned today. It was my intent to go into stuff that she's written today, but it is what it is. But we praise y'all for the directions we went into. But thank you all. Appreciate you. I think that's all that I got for now. We look forward to talking to you guys. We're on every day, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. We're on every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, except for Wednesdays. Wednesdays is the exception. That's my day off, unless we're talking about classes for our school. Third semester starting next week. So if you're interested in taking one of the classes, we've given them to you. We've put the stuff out. If you're interested in taking something, let us know. If not, even if you come in late, we have recordings of them, so you still can get recordings and catch up. So thank you all. We appreciate you. We honor you. We look forward to talking to you guys soon. Even if you need to DM us. Thank you so much again. Thank you for your support, and we really do appreciate you. So, everything starts. Black History 1 is actually going to be the first course out of the week. So all of them are going to be 2 weeks long on different days and different times. Black History 1 will be the first class. That's going to start Monday. This Monday coming up, the 26th at 9:00 p.m. Eastern New York time. And so if you'd like to partake in any of them, they're all starting this week. Black History 1, Sovereignty 1, Sovereignty 2, Natural Medicine 1, Hebrew characters, possibly if we get enough interest, basic Hebrew. There's something that I'm skipping on that day. I apologize. Actually, I can tell you. I just realized I got them here in my notes. All right, let me try it again. Black History 1, that's going to be on Monday. Sovereignty 1 and Sovereignty 2, those are going to be on Tuesdays. Discipleship, Hebrew characters, and Natural Medicine 1, that's going to be on Wednesdays. Biblical Law, that's going to be on Thursdays. We might do something possibly then if people are interested in basic Hebrew. We can do basic Hebrew on that day as well, but we haven't gotten anybody really confirming outside of 1 or 2 people say that they really want to take it. So we may do it even just for them, but we might put it on there. We have Herbalism 1, that's going to be Fridays, and then we have Solutions from the Black Perspective and Marriage. That'll be Saturdays. Nothing will be on Sundays. All right, that's my family day, so I can't do anything on that day. Okay. So if you want more information, get in touch with us. I can send you a link. You can actually see how this stuff works. You can tell me which classes you want. We can make sure that we get you, in our database and all that, and we can make sure we give you information and make sure that you get updates every day. The class is there. You can get an update 30 minutes before and an update when the class starts, and you'll have the link and everything right there at your disposal. Okay. A reminder again, I know that we were having issues with the conference call. I'm going to try my best, if not today, tomorrow, probably tomorrow, in all honesty, because I'll have a chance to rest a little bit, even though I'll be meeting with people. I actually have time. So more than likely tomorrow, but we will have an update for you guys in the system regarding the conference call line. We need to have alternative numbers because the number we're using to record, apparently that's not a free number like it's supposed to be for free conference call, but sometimes they have alternative numbers. If they don't, we'll have another number, probably our old number that we were using. We'll have another number that you can use where you can take that number and you can go ahead and we'll have you be able to listen in and stuff. And when it's time for you, a prayer request or whatever, we might have to have an extra step to make sure your prayer request is made known, but your prayer request will be made known. Okay. So just know that. I apologize for that. It was something that was a side effect of something, that I didn't realize was going to happen, but we do have a pulse on it. So we'll make sure that that's there. And thank you again to Minister Anais, by the way, for teaching that, and Minister Anais too, who's going to be doing our own classes. So we're excited about that. And she's going to develop that. And as she has more information, we'll try to make sure that you have that information as well. We're thankful and grateful for everybody who's doing stuff that's kingdom oriented. So thank you again. We appreciate you. We honor the King and Queen, each and every one of you. And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi. Excuse me. Make sure you study this word and meditate it, research on it, fast, pray, whatever, to make sure that you are hearers of this word as well as doers as well. Don't be a hearer only, be a hearer and simultaneously a doer at the same time. All right. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, Yashadel, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care. And just in case I don't see you this evening on Kofi_42. So if you're not over at Kofi_42, that's where we're going to be this evening. Not number 3, number 2 at the end. Okay. And just in case I don't see you this evening, Shabbat Shalom to you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Hopefully we'll see you tonight.